Can you give it to Vicky Brill? She's over there. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get you.
What's up with you?
No, in everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Got it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sarasota County Legislative Delegation Meeting. I wanted to get us together about a minute early so we can begin with an invocation. Representative Newton, will you lead us?
Heavenly Father, please bless and watch over our great state of Florida and the entire country. Also, look out for our first responders and our men and women near and far that's keeping us safe. As you know, we just went through a dramatic hurricane experience here in the state. A lot of people are suffering, a lot of people still without power. So pray and watch over them. Also, pray for the families of the ones that lost loved ones in this horrific storm. Also, look to us and touch our hearts and make sure that we govern the right way for the people. We listen to their hearts, we listen to their needs and their concerns, and be providers. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, let me continue now with calling of the roll. Before Pledge Allegiance, we need to roll call. Calling of the roll, Representative Boyd. Here. Representative Stubbe. I'm sorry, Senator Stubbe. He's on his way. Representative Gruder. Here. Representative Newton.
Here.
Representative Gonzalez, that would be me. I'm here too. We have a quorum. Representative Boyd, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone, thank you for your patience on that little hiccup of a start there, but I want to make sure we got an invocation in. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Sarasota County Legislative Delegation Meeting. We're all excited to hear what you all are going to share with us today. I would like to make just a couple of comments. First is to make note of the fact that the agenda for today's meeting is located on the Sarasota County main page next to the calendar under the legislative delegation meeting on the website. Additionally, I've done the calculations over and over again, and we've got 50 speakers, and with our time management, the way it works out is if I can give the municipalities 5 minutes each, and then everybody 3 minutes, then that puts us at ending the meeting or completing the known portion of our meeting with 5 minutes to spare. So if we can keep this on track and we can keep this on time, and I will maintain strict reminders of your time limits, we can listen to all the people who had previously given notice of wanting to speak, and we can have a successful meeting. That being said, our first item on the agenda is a general introduction and general comments by our members. Members, if you don't mind limiting to your comments to about a minute, we can get this done quickly so that we can have more time to listen to our constituents. And we'll begin with Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairman. Am I on, I guess? I don't really have much to say other than this is my last delegation meeting here. I just realized this morning as I term out next year. So I'm sure you're going to have punch and cookies or something later for me. So I'll save my comments till then. But it's seriously, it's been a great honor and privilege to serve our community in this capacity, and certainly the great county of Sarasota. So this year is not unlike any of the rest. We're going to have a lot of things on the agenda to do, and look forward to your comments today and your interaction with us, not just today, but along the way as well. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve you, and hopefully this last year we won't let you down. So look forward to everything we're going to talk about today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just like to thank you for all your participation and everything that you've done in our community. And you've been a source, a role model for me, which explains a lot of things. But you've been a role model for me,
Sorry about
and,
that.
and hopefully we'll be able to continue providing great service to our constituents as you move on to your next venture. Representative Gruters, you're up next.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today, and it really is a pleasure to be able to serve all of you in our community up in Tallahassee. I will tell you we got a lot accomplished last year, and I hope we can get even more done for Sarasota this year, although not all projects survived the veto cut. We ended up bringing home a lot of money, and that's largely due to the leadership of the other members on the stage, specifically Chairman Jim Boyd, because of his the fact that he's in his last year. He's in the leadership group. He's been able to help us tremendously. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything you've done for all the projects that I was pushing last year and all the projects that we were all pushing. And now that you're the chairman of the Commerce Committee, I expect that you have even a bigger say moving forward. And I will tell you that Sarasota is unique from the standpoint that we have such a wide range of members serving in the delegation. And different times throughout last session, we were able to help each other in different ways where our own individual relationships and viewpoints and positions were able to help us all succeed together as a team. So I would say that we're a united front, and we're here to help everybody get as much success as they possibly can. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative, and let the record show that Senator Stubbe is indeed present. And with that said, Senator Stubbe, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly for the audience, we had some shuffling around in the Senate as far as committee assignments. So I now sit on 8 committees, which I don't know how we're going to actually have time to meet with constituents and or do the other things that we need to do. But just so the public knows, I chair Judiciary, I'm on Insurance and Banking, Agriculture, Appropriations Subcommittee on Finance and Tax, Appropriations Subcommittee on Pre-K through 12 Education, Children's, Families, and Elder Affairs, Regulated Industries, and the Joint Committee on Public Counsel Oversight. So if you have issues that touch any of those committees, feel free to reach out to me as we start into the committee process, because obviously I'm going to have a lot more impact responsibilities in some of these different committees. So if there's something like K through 12, I've never been on a K through 12 appropriations committee, and I've also never been on Children and Families and Elder Affairs. So those are issue areas that I'll now be involved in. So if there's something that touches your area of expertise or what you're involved in that are on those new committees, feel free to come by and visit with me on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Newton.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I'm just happy to be here. We're not freshmen anymore. I guess we're sophomores now. So we learn how the process is going. I'm happy to see so many people here at the beginning. This is the way it starts. We got cut short a week of our committee because of Hurricane Irma, but hopefully everybody made it through that okay. I serve on government accountability, pre-K appropriations, health quality, the Joint Committee for Collective Bargaining, and Transportation and Infrastructure. So I look forward to working with a lot of you guys. My district secretary is Mr. Charles Martin III. I gotta get that right because I got some third. And my LA in Tallahassee is Cyrus Calhoun III. I got that right. He's looking at me. But it's great to be here. I'm glad you guys are here early in the process, and hopefully I'll see you all the way through. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And as for me, I just want to thank you all for being here. This is an incredibly important moment for us. I want to just express to you, number one, that we decided not to delay the meeting despite the hurricane's impact on our region, because we thought it was so important to listen to you and listen to you early, that I wanted to make sure that we got you in as early as possible in the process. So I thank you for being here, even though I'm sure on our personal side, I'm sure we're all heavily tried with many other issues that are going on. I can't really continue the meeting without saying just a couple of words of thank you and acknowledgement to our first responders who are continuing to do an incredible work in taking care of so many regions in our state, particularly those that have been more impacted than Sarasota was blessed to be. And of course, to just mention the utilities personnel on the way over here, the display of coordinated egress from Robarts Arena and into the street and then into the interstate. I got a chance to see that all the way from Venice, was just marvelous. And it's a testament to our great country, and it's a testament to our ability to respond on a moment's notice for people who are in hardship. So with that being said, let's make sure that we keep those folks in mind. I also want to say that I want to give an incredible thank you to Pam Nichols and Miss Vicki Brill, who both slaved despite whatever things may have been going on in their homes with broken limbs, and not their limbs, but their trees' limbs. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I immediately think of tibias and stuff. But for putting this agenda together, the reason that we're all here and the reason why everything is taking place and we're going to have an agenda today, and the reason why we have these books with all the information that you gave us is because of these two ladies. So let's stop and give them an applause at this point. With the ability of being able to take back the applause if you mess up during the meeting. All right, so that being said, we get to the meat of the matter. First, we have to start with the election of a chair and a vice chair. Do I hear a motion on a nomination for an election of a chair? Representative Boyd, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I would nominate Senator Stubbe for chair for this upcoming session.
I hear a nomination for Senator Stubbe for a chair. Do I hear a second? Is there any debate? Hearing none. Those in favor of electing Senator Stubbe as our upcoming chair for the next session, please say aye. Aye. Those against? No. The ayes have it. Sorry, Senator Stubbe, and your staff, because having gone through this process, I recognize the incredible work that the staff does. Do I hear a nomination for the vice chair? Representative Boyd, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would nominate Representative Gruters for vice chair.
I hear a nomination. Do I hear a second? I hear a second. Is there any debate? See, hearing none, those in favor of electing Representative Gruters to vice chair for the next session, please say aye. Aye. Anybody against? No. I just figured that if he wasn't unanimous, I should be.
Vice chair really doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but here I am this year. Okay, so anyway, the ayes have it, and so Representative Representative Gruters is duly elected. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get started. What I'm going to try to do, again, we're going to do strict time management on the clock. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to give you a on deck and in the hole, so that those of you who are the subsequent two, please go up to the side so you can be close to the microphone so we can get this evolution as seamless as possible. First up will be Sarasota County for 5 minutes, represented by former Senator Nancy Dietert. And then the town of Longboat Key with Mayor Gans, and City of Sarasota is in the hole with Mayor Freeland Eddy. Commissioner Dietert, you are recognized.
Thank you. Good morning to all the delegation members. Thanks for coming this morning. I'm here to present the 2018 legislative delegation. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your service. Sincerely and truly, I understand more than everyone else in the room how hard your job is and the difficult road you're looking at going down, and I truly thank you for your service, and thanks for being here today. On behalf of the Sarasota County Commission, I'm pleased to present the Sarasota County legislative priorities for 2018. Most of them are in your packet, and I won't go over them. I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights. Home rule is always number one, and I've sat there and had them come in and say, support home rule, without really knowing what that meant until I sat in this chamber, and we really need some help. I think allowing government closest to the people to be effective has really worked. It was demonstrated with Hurricane Irma. I think everyone during this most challenging, scary, frightening hurricane played their role. My congratulations to the governor. I don't see how any governor could have handled a crisis of this magnitude any better than he did, and that was the state role. He demonstrated leadership and cooperated with the local leaders so that they could control their local communities, offered state support to local government, and this is how we feel government should work. And that's why we always talk about home rule. Please don't handcuff us so that we can't be the quick response team to local people when they petition their local government for some sort of relief. The other thing that I learned just last week, as part of the Sunshine Laws, we're not allowed to communicate with each other, and that's fine. There's no, frankly, the odd thing, we have nothing to trade each other, so there's none of that kind of vote stuff going on. But where the Sunshine Laws have hurt us and put us at a really bad disadvantage, we had an incident last week where we're trying to buy property from some people. We had made an offer, they had made a counteroffer. We had to sit in those very chairs and in a public meeting that's televised with the person's lawyer sitting there taking notes, we got to discuss in public our counteroffer. I mean, this puts our county, local government at an extreme disadvantage. So if we could write some language and bring it up to you, Rob Lewis does that for us. He does a great job in Tallahassee. Those little tweets to the Sunshine Laws would help us be more effective, and frankly, it would help us save taxpayer dollars. Under transportation, we want to thank you for the money for University Park and I-75. I think it's turned out to be a winner. I hope you think so too. I know several of you are from Manatee and frequent that avenue more often than I do, but it looks very functional, and it's taken a lot of relief off of I-75. I think it's a real winner. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for getting money in the budget last year for River Road. Unfortunately, it was vetoed, and we're gonna come back through a different channel and hope to be successful. Because as you know, it's an evacuation route for Englewood and South Venice and parts of Charlotte, so it really needs to be done. We have invested $52 million so far and need some help to finish it because, as you know, the Braves are coming and we're going to have to widen it there. Taxes, we hope you don't handcuff us on taxes. Beach renourishment, an ongoing project. Donna Bay restoration funds, my last year in the Senate, we started a project. It was phase 1. We need the money to continue and finish that. And Legacy Trail, and continue to complete the sports tourism so that we can complete our project with the Atlanta Braves. So I would just say all the other issues are in the packet. Thank you for your appreciation of local government and the local needs of Sarasota County. The commission and our staff will be speaking with you in Tallahassee, and consider us your working partner in service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and we look forward to working with our county in representing you properly in Tallahassee.
Okay.
Next, we have the town of Longboat Key with Mayor Gans, followed by Mayor Freeland-Eddy from City of Sarasota and Mayor Yates from Northport. Mayor Gans, you are recognized.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairman Gonzalez, Vice Chairman Stube, soon-to-be Chair Stube, members of the delegation, including soon-to-be Vice Chair Gruters. We've submitted Longboat Key's 2018 legislative priorities, and you will find alignment in many areas with those presented by the Minnesota League and Sarasota County. Since you have them, I'm not going to reiterate them one by one. All of them are important to us, and as your municipal partners in the responsibilities for government in our jurisdiction, we request your incorporation of our thoughts into your thinking and work in the coming session. I would like to focus the time I have on a few of the issues. As we stated last year, our desire for state funding for beach nourishment extends to a need for state leadership in planning and coordination for protection of perhaps Florida's greatest asset. The current situation forces each jurisdiction, county or municipal, to engage in extensive planning which addresses a small, specific part of an overall coastal system in an uncoordinated manner. It also requires competition for resources when an overall plan and coordination could utilize these more efficiently. Embedded in this matter is the need for the legislature to accept that our coastal areas are seeing the early impacts and changes to sea level. We understand that terms like climate change and warming are not a part of the approved official vocabulary, but something is happening, and we all share the responsibility for honestly inventorying what we are seeing in our coasts, canals, streets, and infrastructure. We do not require settled science to work to have plans in place for the in case what summer forecasting actually comes to pass. This is an exercise in and perhaps a test of leadership. A number of our priorities fall under the general umbrella of home rule. As our founding fathers told us, and Commissioner Dieter touched on, government closest to the people serves the people best. I've personally been horrified to hear a philosophy from important segments of the legislature that essentially the localities have no powers under than what the legislature deigns to give them, and that's a good thing. This attitude infected many bills and debates during the past sessions. The term preempt is not our favorite, and perhaps in many cases it's repugnant. I'm going to go out on a limb by believing that when each of you ran for office, at your numerous appearances, debates, coffees, not one of you said, I'm going to Tallahassee as an agent of the leadership, and you come second. While you must navigate, of course, in the realities of what it takes to be effective in an organization such as the legislature, your primary responsibility began as seeing to the needs of those who elected you. In the push-pull of the legislature, we urge you to swing the pendulum somewhat back in that direction. Finally, getting to a specific, we are in the early stages of the Barrier Island to mainland traffic study. This important effort is one we ask that you stay current with and support any funding for any identified mitigation projects. I've saved you some time.
No,
yes.
we had a clock mishap. You actually got a minute and a half left.
Other than standing here, I
Oh,
think
okay,
other
great.
people.
I'm sorry.
I think other people could
I
use it more productively.
I want to make sure that you weren't thrown off by the fact that we had
I
that clock
didn't-
mishap.
I didn't even notice it.
Well, I
And-
thank you
and-
for.
And I just want to say, because I've been here at several of these, yeah, we have our needs and we know we're in competition, but anything you can do to help the people in that River Road corridor is important to the entire county. So I thank you for your time, and anything you want to talk with us about in the future, we'd love to have that opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us your concerns. Let me take a second, make sure that we're okay with our clock. Are we going to be okay? We had a little bit of a mishap last time. Okay, what I'm planning on doing for the future speakers is at a minute, I'll give you kind of a 1 minute sign. If we have a clock mishap, go by my signs. I might even give you 30 seconds, particularly if the clock seems to be off.
You can throw your red challenge flag.
Huh? All right. You want to go off my signals?
Sure.
Okay. So next we have Mayor Freeland Eddy from City of Sarasota. City of Northport, I see Mayor Yates on deck, and Mayor Hollick is in the hole. Mayor Freeland Eddy, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, members, and elected officials in their respective places. We too have submitted our 2018 legislative priorities for the City of Sarasota. We'll spend some time on those. We thank you for the opportunity to present, particularly with this tight-knit schedule as you head to Tallahassee in January. Want to touch on some of the hurricane updates and just make some requests to you on behalf of our city. The state has been wonderful in its early declaration of the state of emergency, which has allowed the feds to free up funds that will trickle down to the city for infrastructure and repairs. However, my request is on behalf of the business owners in our community. We support legislation that provides fiscal support to local businesses and business owners who, due to the loss of power, were forced to close their doors upwards of 2 weeks, and as a result have sustained significant financial loss through the loss of business revenue, through property and infrastructure damage, and most importantly, in their inability to make payroll for the millions of hardworking Floridians that have been out of work for the past 2 weeks as a result of the storm. We support legislation that creates a uniform top-tier priority list that utility companies must follow in restoring power to hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, mental health facilities, and other dependent populations that suffer the most after a catastrophic hurricane. This legislation should also further require that all county-sponsored evacuation shelters have working generators in place prior to the dispatch of emergency to evacuate. I also respectfully request that this delegation on behalf of us goes to the governor and requests an additional tax-free period of time wherein Floridians can purchase supplies and equipment that is well needed in order to begin to undertake repairs to their homes and to their businesses, and that this tax-free period also includes the ability for Floridians to purchase food for the homes, for millions of Floridians have lost food as a result of this hurricane during the storm. Now on to our priorities. You've heard my colleagues talk about home rule. It is also important to the city of Sarasota. The ability under the Constitution and under the statute to exercise local municipal powers in terms of local business taxes, in terms of regulation for land zoning as it relates to Amendment 2 and medical marijuana, as it relates to the ability to tax on the local level, as it relates to vacation homes and short-term rentals, and more particularly as it relates to a future homestead exemption that is on the horizon with this proposed 2018 constitutional amendment. It impairs our ability to provide basic needs and services to the residents of our community. The impact that is proposed with regard to this 2018 proposed amendment as it relates to the homestead exemption for the city of Sarasota alone is $500,000. The impact with regard to the ability to not regulate in communication service taxes results in a $3.1 million deficit to our city. The local business tax, if we're not able to legislate on the local level, would result in a nearly $1 million shortfall. Those are things that hit your constituents and your voters directly. We also ask that you would continue to support transportation funding, preserving local control over transportation and that it's done in an equitable manner, and distributing revenues and an ability, particularly here in our county, to extend the Legacy Trail. A lot of you have issued your support, and we ask that that will continue and that there be state funding, public-private partnerships, and that you give support and direction to the Florida Department of Transportation in that regard. We also ask that you look at our additional priorities, which include affordable housing, environmental protection, sustainability of our beaches and tourism, economic development, climate and energy, public safety, traffic enforcement, support of reforms to our public records and sunshine laws, as was previously communicated to you, transportation funding, and also legislation that provides clarification to the newly revised Stand Your Ground laws that impact gun owners and residents in our community. We thank you for your time in meeting with us this morning. We thank you to Sarasota County for hosting this delegation, and we ask specifically that you remember your commitment to the local voters and to us as elected officials who are your hands and feet while you're doing the work in Tallahassee, and that you remember what we've asked for at the forefront of your mind as you sponsor bills, as you support appropriations, and as you chair important committees going forward into the session. Representative Byrd, thank you for your years of service. We continue to support you in this last year of your term, and we remain available to each of you to provide data, statistics, and any support that you need in order to accommodate our objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Great timing. I appreciate you doing that. Yes, Representative Boyd, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair. And just briefly, Mayor, to your point early on in your presentation about the hurricane, most of you are probably aware, but I wanted to put it on everyone's radar. Yesterday, the Speaker announced a select committee chaired by Speaker Pro Tem Nunez and represented on the committee by members of the House kind of geographically around the state, and they're going to look at every issue of our storms and good things that have happened, bad things that have happened, from healthcare to power to nearly everything else. So I think that's a great step forward to improving what I think was a pretty good process, as several of you said, from the governor's office this year, or this time with our storm. But if you have input or you have thoughts, reach out to the members on that committee. It's publicized who they are, and I think it's a great chance for us to all work together to really even prepare ourselves better for the next storm that will come someday. So just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Representative Boyd, and for my part, I just want to thank you, Mayor, for having Representative Boyd and I on Monday at your chambers. That was an incredibly good talk that we had, and we will take those thoughts and considerations forward to Tallahassee. Next will be Mayor Yates from the city of Northport, followed by Mayor Hollick, followed by Mr. Willie Shaw, or Commissioner Willie Shaw. Commissioner Shaw will begin the 3-minute timing, but for now, we can set the clock for 5? No. So in order to keep things rolling, I will keep the time, and you are recognized, Madam Mayor, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the delegation. Thank you for your service and appreciate the opportunity to be here today. On behalf of the City of Northport, and I do have one of my colleagues, Commissioner McDowell, here with me today. On behalf of the city, we presented the priorities to you all, so you have that. And I just want to emphasize a couple of key points. City of Northport, nearly 105 square miles, 8th largest city in the state of Florida, nearly 70,000 people. We are a community, a working community, family community, average age of 41, and our city is growing exponentially. Proudly, the Atlanta Braves are coming to the city of Northport. It is going to be a great thing for the city of Northport, for the region, for the state of Florida. With that, I can't emphasize enough how important the Home Rule Authority is to all municipalities, but also to the city of Northport. Now we have to get the work done, boots on the ground. We have a lot of infrastructure, we have stormwater, we have a lot of things that we need to take care of in our community to make all of these things possible and for the benefit of the public health, safety, and welfare of all of our citizens and our businesses, to make those opportunities, to maximize those opportunities in the community. So home rule is critical. The preemptions that we have seen that have passed in the past couple of legislation has really impacted the city of Northport. River Road, very important. We were spared. We were spared what the catastrophe could have been had this hurricane been a 5. And think about River Road and what would have been on that roadway as an evacuation route. We appreciate your support for that. We know it was vetoed, but we're going to hopefully work together at getting this done. It is so critical to the whole entire region. There's other legislation in regards to our small businesses and the opportunities that are there. We want to help our small businesses, and some of the legislation, thankfully, that did not pass, if it comes back again, we need your help. We need your help to give us that local ability to be able to regulate and deregulate some of the things, to streamline and make things possible. So we are here to help you in working through some of those issues of what the legislature is trying to do, and we will help you to get the goals that are a win-win for everybody. Infrastructure is so important to us. Stormwater, whatever could be done for funding mechanism for stormwater projects. We see the impacts just of the hurricane, and we need to have those mechanisms in place for those projects and funding. Environmental. The city of Northport is surrounded by many conservation and environmental lands, and the funding for those projects is very, very important. Myakatchee Creek. We have Warm Middle Springs that is internationally known, and we're looking to do some protections and preservations of that as well. So your continued support of those funding opportunities for these types of things is so, so important, and we look forward to all of the help that you can give and support on those issues. I know Representative Gonzalez, you recall as far as the discharge of firearms in residential areas, we appreciate the support that was given and the change that was made, but we can do a little bit more. It right now helps to protect those that are on an acre or less, but we have residents that are in the larger parcels that need that same protection. So we can continue to work on that and keep our folks safe from the catastrophes that we have seen some of these issues happen. So those are our priorities. We really appreciate your support and your outreach that you all have been doing, and we look forward to continuing that. And we are here to help on the other side of this too. As you look at your priorities, your bills, and the help you need, please reach out to us.
Thank you, Mayor Yates. Representative Gruters, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you. Real briefly, I just want to say congratulations about getting the Braves and working with the county. I think it's going to be a transformational thing for South County. I'm very, very excited. And for all those you don't know, River Road was a priority for our delegation last year, and although it didn't make it past the finish line, there is one person who has certainly taken it on as their mission to get this done, and that's our chairman right now, Julio Gonzalez. I mean, it's like a one-man band up there beating that drum nonstop to make sure we get that funding. And so for that, congratulations, Julio, and I'm sure this year we'll have a little bit more success. So thank you.
And I'm going to drive on a better River Road. That's going to be a fact.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, thank you, Mayor Yates. Continuing with our clock mishaps, I'm going to continue to give you hand signals as we go along. This will be our last 5-minute presentation by Mayor Hollick from the City of Venice. Then Commissioner Shaw will be on deck, and your twin brother, sir, Commissioner Shaw, will be on deck in the hole as well. So the next two presenters actually will be Commissioner Shaw. Mayor Hollick, you are recognized, sir, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Representative Gonzalez, and thank you, other representatives on the committee, and Senator Stubbe. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your communication during this storm. I'd like to especially ask that you thank Governor Scott on our behalf. He did a tremendous job. He kept us well informed, probably better than I could have ever imagined. I would like to echo, I think, Commissioner Dietert and the mayors of the various cities. What they had to say is very much in line with what the City of Venice has to say, so I'm not going to repeat much of it other than to say home rule, continue to drive that point home, and the Sunshine Law, some type of change in that Sunshine Law is essential. And I think Commissioner Dietert brought up an excellent example. Another example, we couldn't even communicate amongst the various committee members, council members in the City of Venice without convening a meeting to talk about what we're going to do for Hurricane Irma. That's a little bit strict, but it's reality. The things that I would like to emphasize on the booklet that you have from the City of Venice, I'd like to, number one, thank Senator Gonzalez. He's been a tremendous help. It's great to have boots on the ground in the same hometown. It paid off during the hurricane. There were things that he could see that we couldn't see, and we were able to work together, and I think an example of how different government entities can work together. Representative Gonzalez has agreed to sponsor 3 bills for the City of Venice, and we'd like your support when they do come forward. One is a road improvement project. City is going to spend $4 million, $3 million from the city, hopefully $1 million from the state. We did get the $1 million last year, but it was taken away in a line item veto. We have a Eastgate water main replacement, $4.2 million. City is putting in almost $3.5 million. We're asking $750,000 from the state. Again, that was approved last year, but was taken away. And we have a water main replacement, phase 6. The city is putting in $2 million. We're asking for $500,000 from the state. On both of these water projects, they are 50 water mains from the 1950s, heavily tuberculated, and we're trying to get our water infrastructure up to the shape it should be in. I will emphasize things like mental illness. I think we need to have a greater participation from the state. And finally, low-cost housing, affordable housing. We're working on it diligently on the city level, but we really could use good guidance from the state. It's difficult with homelessness and affordable housing to reinvent the wheel in each city. It would be great to have a consistent plan throughout the state so that we didn't have homeless people, for example, moving from one shelter to another because it's a little nicer shelter. It has more amenities, things like that. And the rest, I think you have in your booklet. I do thank you for your service. Appreciate working with you, and we'll see you in Tallahassee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will recognize Representative Newton for a question or a short comment.
Thank you, Chairman. I just got a comment, and it's still the second time I heard it. The Sarasota's delegation also mentioned this about the Sunshine Law. And just two questions. Number one, have you polled the constituency? Because they're the ones that wanted the government to sunshine. And number two, do you use the tool? I served 8 years on the City of St. Petersburg Council. Have you ever used the tool as executive session for negotiation? Because normally we do that in executive session, then we'll come out, somebody will make a motion, then they won't mention any dollars or whatever, and then we'll go forth. That way you won't be disclosing what you're doing.
30 seconds, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, we have used executive session, but it's limited to contract negotiations with the unions. We have used shade meetings for lawsuits, but that's the only 2 times we've done meetings outside the sunshine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to try to limit the amount of discussion that we have moving forward because the major impetus and the major importance of this meeting and this forum is for us to listen. There may be some pressing comments that we need to make here and there, but if we take a lot of time discussing and debating, we will not be able to hear everybody, and I really want to give everybody a chance. So that being said, I'm going to move on to our next speaker. Now, Commissioner Shaw, you are in for 2. So one time you're representing Minnesota League of Cities, the other one is Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm going to count it as 6. I'll give you a 3-minute signal and let you manage the time as you see fit. Is that okay with you, sir?
Very well, thank you, sir.
Okay, and then in the hole is David Verinder, representing Sarasota Memorial Hospital. I'm going to go by my clock because I'm going to measure 6. So with that said, Commissioner Shaw, you are welcome and
Thank you,
recognized.
sir. Good morning, Chair.
Morning,
Members
sir.
of this delegation, I'm Sarasota Commissioner Willie Charles Shaw, at President, Vice Chair of the Minnesota League of Cities. You have a copy of our priorities. I would like to continue the conversation on home rule as it has been brought forth to you. The Florida Constitution empowers citizens with the right of local self-government. We are still continuing to look for your support in supporting us with those efforts. A second issue that the Minnesota League would like to address, and one of a passion to me, is mental health initiatives. While most psychiatric hospitals were closed from the mid-'60s through the '90s, adequate funding of replacement community mental health did not occur. With federal and state mental health programs funding being dramatically reduced in the '80s and more recently in the Great Recession, as psychiatric hospitals were being reduced, jail and prison cells were dramatically expanded by over 200%. It is estimated that over 20% of our jails and prisons are serving as de facto psychiatric hospitals without treatment capabilities. And over 30% of our chronic homeless population is suffering from severe mental health problems, including schizophrenia, manic depressive disorders, and severe depression aggravated by substance abuse. Your support during this coming session to our mental health initiatives would be truly and greatly appreciated. Taking off that hat, coming over to me now.
Well, you are giving Manatee an extra 2 minutes, sir.
Very
You got
good.
about 5 minutes left.
No problem. The Minnesota League will now relinquish its 2 minutes to the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is
Good
Will
morning,
Charles Shaw. And
Commissioner. What a pleasure it is to have
Not
you
a
here, sir.
problem.
Yeah. Representative Newton would like to know if we have some mental health issues that we...
Representative Newton and I go back for some time, and he knows very well the issue.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, this morning I would like to continue the conversation on the expansion of the River Road, one of our priorities for several years, and it is even more important now. It has now been elevated to the number 1 Transportation Regional Incentive Program, or TRIP, priority by the Sarasota, Manatee, and Charlotte counties. In addition, Sarasota County has set aside funds to match the state's investments. We're asking that you would also work to implement the Barrier Island Mobility Study in treating our seasonal traffic like a 4-month-long special event, similar to a particular convention or sporting event. Preliminary reports include short, medium, and long-term ways to address traffic onto Longboat Key and Anna Maria Island. It will be important to fund and implement the recommendations on our state roads as adequately and quickly as possible. And with that, gentlemen, I relinquish my 4 seconds and 4 minutes here.
Thank you. Thank you,
so very
Commissioner.
much.
As always, a pleasure to have you here with us, sir. Next up is Mr. Verinder, representing Sarasota Memorial Hospital. How's our clock technology? We're doing okay? Okay, I'm going to go by their clock and hope that everything goes okay, but stand by for hand signals if we have any issues. Second up will be Board Member Jane Goodwin. Ms. Goodwin, you're up next, followed by Dr. Probstfeld from State College of Florida. Mr. Verinder, you are recognized for 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to first thank you all for your continued support for the hospital and for what our mission that we continue to do each and every day on behalf of our board and our chairman who is here, Mr. Greg Carter. You have a copy of our priorities for the coming year, and they focus on preserving our ability to deliver the highest level of care to patients throughout the region, even in the most challenging circumstances. I'd like to talk now a little bit about the Hurricane Irma and what some of the experiences we had for the remainder of my time. Over the years, we've made significant investment in disaster preparedness and the storm served to test that efforts. Irma prompted the largest mobilization of Sarasota Memorial's resources in our 92-year history. The hospital remained fully functional on backup generator throughout Irma, caring for over 500 patients and providing shelter for more than 2,500 physicians, patients, and employees. 150 of their children, as well as people with special needs and their caregivers who were evacuated to our campus. As the only hospital in the county with maternity care, we delivered over 20 babies during the storm. We brought in extra medical supplies, food, water, and were equipped with backup power, including 5 elevated generators that provided the hospital for power for up to 14 days. Our buildings have been hurricane hardened. As Irma passed through, we activated several contingency plans, including evacuating patients from our behavioral health facility on Osprey Avenue to the main hospital. But the hospital did not lose power or sustain significant damage. Our emergency room in Northport also continued to deliver care throughout the storm. Although we had a full house, we helped care for an influx of patients from other areas where facilities had limited capacity or went on diversion or in some cases even evacuated themselves. The hurricane also highlighted a vulnerability of other care providers that don't have the same backup systems. We all saw this tragedy at the nursing home in Hollywood. As you look at allowing new facilities such as the 72-hour recovery care centers and overnight ambulatory centers, we ask you to assess risk and make sure they can continue to safely provide care. While Irma served as a good test for everyone's hurricane preparedness, our mission at Sarasota Memorial is to serve as a healthcare safety net year-round, not just during these disasters. And a large, rapidly growing number of our patients depend on that day to day, as our admissions have jumped over 40% over the last 3 years. With that comes more staff. We're the largest area employer with over 55. I'm out of time, and I just want to tell you we continue to appreciate your support and understand what we do for this community. And I would also like to call out the county for everything they did, and Tom Harmer for what they did during this hurricane as well.
Thank you, sir. And
Thank
you
you.
for being, and thank you for the great work that Sarasota Memorial Hospital is doing for our community.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Representative.
Okay, next up, we have representing the school board, Ms. Goodwin, followed by Dr. Probstfeld, followed by Dr. O'Shea, who is representing New College of Florida.
Do we not get 5 minutes? Because
No,
we are
you do
part of
not.
local government. We always have.
You do not. We made a decision, and we made
Oh,
the
okay.
announcement earlier this morning that the only way the calculations would work out if we kept in a timely schedule, if we gave 5-minute aliquots for the municipalities and everybody else gets 3
Okay.
minutes. Otherwise, we won't make it.
All right.
So I apologize. I would love to have 20 minutes with you, and for that, I encourage you to come over to my office
Yes.
and visit us, and we can talk some
Will
more.
do, will do.
But for now, Ms. Goodwin, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Well, as part of the Sarasota County School Board, I want to say thank you all for your service. And I really want to introduce our new superintendent, Dr. Todd Bowden. That is Bowden, not Bowden, who will give the major part of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Gruder is allowed to call me Bowden, as a good Seminole. Senator Stubbe, I want to welcome you to the Education Committee and extend my offer of support as you navigate that new responsibility. We're excited to have local representation there on the Education Committee, so if there's anything I can do for you and with you, I'll be reaching out to you. I'm sure that was on tape. I do want to highlight that school districts around the state have contemplated responses to House Bill 7069, and I do want to highlight the position of our local school district. We did take a formal vote not to sue the state and to join that lawsuit. Our position is that we want to be your partner, and lawsuits do not build partnerships. And so as that bill, like any major piece of legislation, is revisited and tweaked and grows and evolves, we want to be your partner. And I just want to highlight our position that we will not be joining other school districts around the state in that lawsuit.
Appreciate that.
You have a copy of our legislative platform. Our legislative platform is broken into 2 tiers. The first tier is specific to Sarasota, and that's where I'll spend our time this morning talking about. We have 4 priorities that will directly benefit Sarasota County schools, specifically our efforts at our Title I elementary schools. We're seeing great results working with our Title I schools where we have the highest number of students in poverty. Our first objective is to obtain flexibility and resources for Sarasota County schools to fully implement a summer learning program for educationally vulnerable children and their parents, with emphasis on grade 3. We also ask that voluntary pre-K programs held on the campus of Title I elementary schools are funded at the same FTE level as K-3 programs, if they are offered as part of a comprehensive school improvement effort tied to the National Campaign for Grade Level Reading. We see huge disparities, as you know, in VPK funding versus the funding we receive for kindergarten students, and particularly those most vulnerable students need that support. The other 2 retain specific to workforce development. If we offer a workforce development program on the campus of a Title I elementary school, we're requesting a waiver of tuition, so we're not charging those parents. And that concludes my comments.
I don't mean to cut you off that abruptly. You can share
Absolutely.
a final thought if you would like.
Absolutely. Our last objective is just in workforce development, where I believe that both us and Manatee County are state leaders. We ask that the workforce development formula be looked at for its equitable distribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here and throwing. Senator Stubbe.
2 seconds, just quickly. Superintendent, I would just encourage you to come and meet with me and spend some time together, and not just me that sits on K through 12, but every member of our delegation. In the past, your predecessor, I didn't really have, they never came and met with us. I'd never had a communication with her. So I think it would be best moving forward for the school district, myself, and the members of the delegation to have an open line of communication. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to come up. there are things that I can assist with being on that committee. So I would just encourage you to, my aide, Libby is sitting right over there, set up a meeting, come in and sit down and spend some time together. And then that way we can have a line of communication as we move through this legislative session and this year.
You have my commitment. I'll make that initial contact by week's end and get on your calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Dr. Probstfeld representing State College of Florida. Look, when I give you the 10-second or 5-second hand signal, I don't mean for you to stop mid-sentence. I'm trying to be an aid just for you to deliver your final comments and final thoughts in your conclusion. Dr. Probstfeld, State College of Florida, New College of Florida will be up next, represented by Dr. O'Shea, and USF Sarasota Manatee, represented by Dr. Osborne, will be in the hole. Dr. Probstfeld, you are recognized for 3 minutes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. Last year, I asked you to preserve the State College of Florida's identity. You did, and I thank you. This year, I'm asking you to preserve our capability. I am deeply grateful to this delegation for the operational support funding you provided in the late hours of last legislative session. That funding has allowed SCF to minimize the impacts of legislative cuts to our regular operating budget. For this year, our students will not be negatively impacted by budget cuts that would force us to reduce academic programs and services. Despite your best efforts, however, the majority of that operational support funding was converted to non-recurring during the final budget discussions. I ask that you make that $1.4 million of non-recurring operational support funding a permanent part of SCF's annual operating budget. Doing so will allow us to maintain everything we feature today, including our health science programs, which are so vital to our community but so expensive to provide. I also ask you to support a capital project that will positively impact SCF's strategic partnerships on our Venice campus with the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee, and the University of Florida. Constructing a science and laboratory building will allow SCF to fully support the new Gator Engineering at SCF program and a biology baccalaureate program in partnership with USF Sarasota Manatee. The SCF District Board of Trustees has committed $1 million toward this project, reducing our public funding request to $2.5 million. I'm pleased to provide an update on the last capital project you helped to fund at SCF, our Library and Learning Center on our Bradenton campus. We are not only within budget, but our cost per square foot is $226, compared to the Florida Department of Education average of $305. I take very seriously and strongly believe in our mission to be a financial role model for our students. And I look forward to inviting you to the ribbon-cutting ceremony for that building early next year. In 2017, the members of this delegation fought to provide SCF temporary relief from budget cuts. Please use the 2018 session to make that relief permanent and preserve our capability to serve our community and our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to being at that ribbon cutting. Hopefully it'll be at a time when we're not actually physically in Tallahassee. New College of Florida, represented by Dr. O'Shea, will be next, followed by USF Sarasota Manatee, Dr. Osborne, and in the hole will be Visit Florida, Virginia Haley, president of that organization. Is our clock ready? Our clock is not ready, so I'm going to go by hand signals. Yes, our clock is ready. Sorry, sir. Doctor, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Good morning, delegation members. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. New College reopened on Monday. We were closed from Wednesday of the week before last. Over 200 students and staff, including me, sheltered on campus. Again, we were lucky there, minor structural damage, but no one was hurt. Power was restored to all of campus on Saturday, so a big shout out to FPL. New College of Florida shares a chiller plant with FSU Ringling. This past Thursday, we were down to 2 hours of fuel in the emergency generator when a fuel truck from USF Tampa arrived and filled it up, and the other generators on our campuses. Had that not happened, it would have been bad. We would have lost cooling in any building where we did have power, and some of those had a lot of students packed in it. But FSU would have lost temperature and humidity control for their priceless paintings in the Ringling. So thanks to USF Tampa and the FSU administration in Tallahassee. This was another instance where our shared services, we share police, counseling, and library with USF Sarasota Manatee, have been critical. Finally, a big thank you for your support last year. The official opening of the new wing of Heiser Natural Sciences Complex is October 12th. You're all welcome. So is everybody else here. As you know, New College provides the undergraduate education for a significant number of Florida scientists. 16% of our graduates go on to PhDs in science and engineering. We're the third highest producer in the U.S. per capita, just ahead of fourth place MIT. Thank you, too, for the first of 3 installments of our growth plan funding to increase the size of the college about 50%. This will allow us to increase our 4-year graduation to over 80%. Thank you, too, for your expansion of student aid. That's huge. And I ask for this coming year that you fund the second installment of our growth plan. It's listed as an SUS priority. Embedded in there is a one-time large request, one-time to fund a center for academic and other operations to house our increased size. It's a large ask, but it provides other opportunities for our region. New College of Florida is at the geographical center of our educational consortium, a collaboration which is vital to our region. Even as we fund recovery, we've got to look to the future. We've lots of young people here, they matter. A appropriately designed building could also serve as a center for emergency shelter and recovery. Finally, I promise you that our educational institutions will continue to work together. Please restore recurrent funding to USF Sarasota Manatee and State College of Florida. That was vetoed at the end of last legislation. Thanks for all you do. Bye.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for being here. We look forward to working with New College moving forward. USF Sarasota Manatee, Dr. Osborne is up next. Visit Florida is on deck, and Mr. Cooper, President of the Greater Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, is in the hole. Dr. Osborne, looks like our clock is ready. You're ready. Let's recognize you, sir.
Thank you and good morning. I want to thank Representative Gonzalez and Senator Stubbe for your support of our funding request last year. I want to thank as well Representative Gruters and Senator Stubbe for supporting our designation as the proud home of the Florida Center for Partnerships for Arts Integrated Teaching, ensuring that our local riches in both education and arts have a statewide impact. This past spring, USF Sarasota Manatee graduated its first freshman class. This fall, we welcomed a record number of freshmen. We have a 25% increase in the number of freshmen over last year and a 14% increase in the new transfer students from our local educational partner, State College of Florida. We face challenges tied, however, to the 28% reduction in state funding and continuing to meet the demands of providing access to local students. We are using our limited savings to maintain our current level of service. We joined the local economic leaders in recognizing the need for increasing STEM risk management and health graduates available to our local employers. But to meet this need and support our continued growth, we need this delegation's leadership in the restoration of our $3.4 million cut. I want to conclude by providing some important historical context. In 2002, we first received separate funding. In the past 15 years, our enrollment has grown 53%. Regrettably, over the same time period, the state's per-student investment has declined 36%. Clearly, we cannot sustain this pattern. We are grateful for your past and your ongoing support, and we look forward to working with each of you in the coming session.
Thank you, sir. And I want to just let you know that I got the echo of some of the comments that you had made to me personally prior to coming over here about the challenges that you meet with your budget. We will definitely take that to heart.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here. Next is Visit Sarasota. Virginia Haley, president of that organization, will represent them, followed by Greater Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Cooper, and in the hole is Mr. Fred Tower, the third, Northport Chamber of Commerce. Clock's ready. Ms. Haley, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. It is my honor to be the president of Visit Sarasota County and to serve on the board of Visit Florida, and to thank you for your support in the end for the funding of Visit Florida. As you can imagine, our work right now is understanding consumer sentiment. What do our customers think of the state of Florida now that the storm is over? We've been able to quantify the negative coverage. It's significant from the last 2 weeks. Our job, both at the state level and here locally, will be to combat those perceptions of visitors and get them back. And, oh, by the way, we have that little event starting on Saturday called World Rowing Championships. All the teams are here. If you look at the tweets and Instagram, they're already loving it, so nothing better to have to let the world know what great shape we're in. I just ask you to let us pay your taxes, to relieve the tax burden of Sarasota County residents by letting the visitors pay those taxes. And the best thing you can do to help us is to do nothing, to leave the tourist development tax ordinances alone, the state statutes. Let us continue to do the work across the state to generate jobs and tax revenue for the counties and for the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haley, and I'm sure I speak for the rest of the panel when I tell you that we love a mandate to do nothing. That is a wonderful idea for us. Okay, next will be President Cooper for representing the Greater Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, followed by Mr. Fred Tower, and then in the hole will be Mr. Mark Huey, Economic Development Corporation of Sarasota County. Mr. Cooper, you are recognized for 3 minutes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, representatives, I won't top that, but I'll do my best. As the Chamber looked at legislative priorities this year, it was less about bringing some new things to the table and more about kind of supporting some of our members and partners who ran into some challenges last year. Representative Gruder's a well-taken point. We did a good job, as you always do, bringing things back to Sarasota County, but I'll echo some of the comments that have already been made and maybe preview some things you might expect to hear upcoming. One particularly as it relates to education. We are in a tight labor market in Sarasota County right now. Unemployment is very low, which leaves employers kind of starving for skilled workforce individuals, and I was glad to be able to follow the educational leaders in this community, and I would urge you to do everything you can to support our K-12 system with Dr. Bowden at the helm, but also our post-secondary leadership, Dr. O'Shea, Dr. Probsfeld, Dr. Osborne, and what they're looking to do, specifically with the cuts to the recurring funding that they experienced last year, specifically as it hindered University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee in a partnership with Mote Marine Laboratory, who is a critical partner here locally in what we're doing to turn out skilled workforce and skilled laborers. It was certainly detrimental at the last minute to see that cut, and we want to see those things made whole. We are wholly supportive of education, and we have long since been, and want to see those institutions continue on the right path as we seek to train our workforce here locally. One thing else that we look to the state for is from an infrastructure standpoint. We've heard River Road mentioned a number of times. It's long since been a chamber priority, and I know whether we do the funding piece, I also believe that Sarasota County has been in talks with the Florida Department of Transportation in terms of a road swap. River Road may very well need to be a state road in terms of how it functions and what it is intended to do, and I would ask that should the county come to an agreement with the Department of Transportation that they see to be beneficial, that you support that effort to see if we can make that a state road. I believe they are looking to what they can do to swap that out right now, but would appreciate that. Finally, I'll close out. I'll probably be 90 years old up here talking about the commercial lease sales tax here in Sarasota or in the state of Florida. We saw it lowered to 5.8% last year, and I think the more I look at this, it's not necessarily about the amount. It's about just the bad policy that's baked into this thing. There was a House bill last year that would have exempted property tax from it. Why are we paying sales tax on property tax? I don't know. It's just bad policy. Your policymakers, it's hard to find a justification for that, but it's also hard to find an exemption when the lessor and the lessee are under the same ownership. Why are we paying sales tax to use property we already own? It's just bad policy. Again, it's not the financial piece in as much as it's hard to straight face these things when you look at businesses that are doing that. I know it's a big dollar amount for the state. I understand that, but as policymakers, it's just bad policy. I appreciate you all very much. I appreciate the work you do, and I'm not pandering to say we've been blessed with a great delegation for a number of years here, so I appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your timeliness and your commentary. Appreciate that. Looking at my calculations, I think we're within about 3 to 4 minutes of where we need to be. So thanks to everybody. Thanks for the members for letting the folks present. Next will be Mr. Fred Tower, Northport Chamber of Commerce, followed by Mark Huey. We talked about him. And then Mr. Mast in the hole, representing the Building Industry Association. The clock is set at 3 minutes. Mr. Tower, you are recognized, sir.
Good morning, Chair Gonzalez and Senator Stubbe and representatives. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Fred Tower, and Northport Chamber of Commerce Government Relations Committee Chair. It's great to be here. We represent 500-plus members, and most of those are businesses with less than 10 employees. So that's where we kind of key in. Our executive director, Bill Gunnan, couldn't be here today. They changed the dates. He had another thing. It's probably good he's not here today because he can't say one word in 3 minutes, so I'm glad that he's not here today. Although we have our priorities before you, and you have them right there, and you're looking in the book, and they cover a wide range of things for businesses in Northport. But we're only going to have 2 today that we're going to present to you. Number 1, and you've heard it today, I've been sitting out here, is our old friend River Road. Last 5 years I've talked about it during the delegation. I was a commissioner for a while, as you well know, so probably the last 12 years I've been trying. Someday it will be built, and I know that you, Representative, did a great job for us up there. In fact, all of you, and it was greatly appreciated. The Braves are coming to town, and you'll hear that probably the rest of the day from people like myself. It is just so important. The West Village has been a great contributor. They're actually going to build another road, so there's 2 entrances and outs for the Braves when they come in. So that they're helping. We also back everything in the priorities of the city of Northport. We work very well with them, and very pleased that you do. And we thank you for all your backing. The other one is one probably I haven't heard today, and it's the certificate of need elimination. And Dr. Gonzalez, you and I have talked about it before, but Northport is the largest city in Florida without an acute care hospital. We now have, though, 2 suitors, and they're going to make a presentation to a committee that we have in Northport on September 28th. The reason is certificate of need is a very complicated process, regulatory hurdles, and very, very costly. It can cost over $200,000, $250,000 just to get the certificate of need before you do anything else. It's an opportunity for us to enhance if we don't have the certificate of need. It just holds us back each time it comes up. Last year, as you probably well know, it passed the House. Unfortunately, when it got to the Senate, it didn't pass, but hopefully this year we can get someplace with it. It's been up for a couple of years. Once again, I thank you for your support of the city of Northport, and especially the Chamber of Commerce. Bill and I look forward to meeting with you like we do every year coming up to Tallahassee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tower. Senator Stubbe for 10 seconds, sir.
Just quickly, because River Road's been mentioned so many times, we had a meeting when Senator Latvala, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee, was in town at the Argus event with county leaders to discuss the road swap. I think the chamber mentioned it as well. We also have a meeting that we're trying to put together that I'll ask, obviously, Representative Gonzalez and others that want to participate to get myself, Chair Latvala, and the DOT Secretary together in Tallahassee during our first committee week to discuss the road swap and where we are with that and what we can do to move that along. It's my hope that we can do that because then it can get on the 5-year work plan and we can get it funded much quicker than just doing an appropriation like we did last year and then the appropriation got vetoed. But you have my commitment, as you do the members of this delegation, to continue to work on the best way and the fastest way that we can get funding and get that infrastructure change made. But I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm hopeful that before session we'll have some movement on it and some good news.
Senator, thank you very much, and that's great news. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. Tower. Economic Development Corporation of Sarasota County with Mr. Mark Huey will be next. John Mast is on deck, and Patrick Lehman with Peace River Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority is in the hole. Mr. Huey, you are recognized for 3 minutes, sir.
Good morning, delegation. Chairman Gonzalez. Thank you all for your leadership during the session. I want to particularly thank Representative Gruger, Representative Newton for your support all through the session for the governor's agenda, and for all of you at the end of the session to support the compromise that evolved to do our best to keep Florida competitive for attracting great jobs, growing great jobs in our community. So thank you all for that. Our board has not approved our legislative agenda yet. We're still working on it, but I wanted to highlight some things that will be a part of it. And some of them you've been hearing about. Fred, I'm going to be the first to say River Road. Everybody's going to be talking about River Road. That was a top priority for us last year. It will be again this year for all the reasons that you've heard. Also, you got to hear from our college presidents. Workforce, it's critical pipeline, and so all of the restoring of funding, the strengthening of our talent pipeline creation system here through State College of Florida, USF, and our other institutions is highly critical. Continuing to support the economic development infrastructure that exists at Enterprise Florida and the toolbox there of incentives that we have. I think you're all aware of the recent announcement by Amazon that they will be looking for a new headquarters, that they are, a second headquarters in the United States. And I think it's going to be something that all states are trying to be competitive to attract what, in my career, is probably the most significant project I've seen make itself available in the United States that can be transformational for wherever it relocates. And so I think for you as leaders, economic development leaders for the state, are we competitive? Do we have the tools to really compete and win a project like that? And finally, I'll note workforce as again, just another area to fund and support in this low unemployment cycle. Skills gaps that we see around the country, we have them in Florida. We can't be investing enough to align workforce with our business needs. So I think those are the things that our legislative agenda will focus on. I know Representative Boyd, you're chair of the Commerce Committee, and Representative Gruters and Representative Gonzalez, you're on the Careers and Competition Committees. So we look forward to working with you to bring more and more prosperity to our state during this session.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here, and we do as well. Next, representing Building Industry Association is Mr. John Mast, followed by Patrick Lehman with the Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority. Community Alliance of Sarasota County will be next, represented by Ms. Shea. Mr. Mast, you are recognized for 3 minutes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this public discourse. I want to call out Representative Boyd for your stellar service to this community. We've looked forward to every year working with you, and in your next venture, hope we can continue to do that. On behalf of the Manatee Sarasota Building Industry Association and our president, Bill Smock, and chair of my government affairs, Mike Ron, my name's John Mast. I'm the CEO for the BIA. We do have several issues that we'll be bringing to you this year, more benign locally, but more importantly, globally for our state. So we do have workers' comp reform that is still on our radar, even though we have had some relief. We are still looking for workers' comp reform. Notice and right to cure, that's going to come up before you, especially Senator Stubbe. Full funding of the Sadowski funds. We always ask for that. Don't always get it, but we're asking for that. Construction workforce, it's been mentioned many times. Our labor market is very tight. And now with Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma that have devastated the United States, our workers are going elsewhere. And we're going to be very tight in the state of Florida. We need to have training for our labor. We also need training for executives, but we need training for labor. We need to train our students that are not going to be college bound to work in the profession of building. And it is a profession, a very noble profession. We also have issues with collection of impact fees. You're going to be hit with that this year, as well as the statute of repose. So when you get, our delegation hits you with those informations, those ideas, I pray that you would take into account what we need. As a USF bull, I would like to say, please return the funding to USF. And a River Road. It would be remiss as a building association to not mention that road. That road is critical in the growth of Northport and the survival of Northport.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to bring you back to the building code bill that you passed this year. We thank you very much for that. you've heard, and as well as the public has heard, that we have actually weakened the building code. The code has not been weakened, as you know. I'm just reminding you that if you get some legislation in front of you this year to try and take us backward instead of continuing the forward progress, we look forward to the deep dive that Corcoran's select committee will be looking into the damage assessments to help prove, again, that the building code in and of itself, with the structural components and the water intrusion, and how we continue to meet FEMA's requirements in the building code, that will stand.
Thank you. Senator Stubbe for a pressing comment.
Just real quick, I saw the governor recently in the last couple of days relax the regulations as it relates to general contractors and contractors not having to sub with roofing companies to get roofs fixed. Having talked to some roofing companies in my district in Sarasota, they're overwhelmed, they're inundated. I mean, to get something done on my house, he said he's like 7-8 weeks out. So what information are your members putting out so that we as citizens can know what general contractors and contractors are going to do roofing repair? So, I mean, I would love to assist in getting that information out to my district of other contractors and general contractors who, because of the relaxed regulations that the governor repealed, will be providing roofing services in Sarasota County. I mean, I know I've been contacted by a number of people that, and you talk to the roofing companies, they're just overwhelmed, which is completely understandable. But is there members that you have, is there ways that you guys can get out information of general contractors who are taking on that added area of expertise to help citizens who have roofing needs?
Mr. Mass for 30 seconds.
We have been putting out PSAs on iHeartRadio, our Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, as many items as we're allowed to do that. Done several interviews with news outlets locally. So if you would like that in your offices,
yeah, send me
we'd be happy
that
to send
information so I can get it out too.
Yeah.
And I would say echo that to all of us.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you very much. Mr. Lehman, welcome for the Peace River Regional Water Supply Authority. Ms. Shea, you're up next for the Community Alliance of Sarasota County. The Florida Center for Early Childhood, Ms. Treharn, Clinical Director, will be in the hole. The clock is set for 3 minutes. Mr. Lehman, you are recognized, sir.
Okay, thank you. And good morning, Chairman Gonzalez and honorable members of the delegation. For those that don't know, the Water Supply Authority consists of the 4 county, Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, and DeSoto. Commissioner Mayo of Sarasota represents their county on our board, and he also serves as our chairman. He couldn't be here today. Why are we important to Sarasota County? We supply over 75% of the water that Sarasota County utility uses that goes to your residents and businesses. Since Hurricane Charlie, we've had a lot of lessons learned. Since that time, we've had over $300 million investment in the regional water system, creating a more interconnected system, creating water storage that would get us through the supply side. It's important to know that there's been a long partnership of the state, regional, local level. Your message to take back, your feedback, you look no further than today's Herald Tribune. Water, an infrastructure success story. This is a credit to everybody, starting at the local, regional, and you at the state level. So I hope you can take that message back that it works. During the Hurricane Irma, there was not even a flicker of water supply to the utilities in the region because there were interconnects and adequate water storage. We're looking to move forward into the future. We are submitting an application for aquifer storage, increasing the technology in that aspect for storage. The legislature graciously, with Senate Bill 10 last year, recognized water storage critical throughout the state of Florida through the creation of reservoirs. Aquifer storage recovery is another alternative to reservoirs. We have the largest system in the state of Florida. Manatee County is the pioneer that has the oldest system and is dependent upon it. What we are doing is look at the regulations of trying to decrease from totally treated water to a lesser degree of water, of raw water, of the aquifer recovery. This would be beneficial economically and to the environment because we can actually recharge the aquifer. This would not only be important to the authority, our customers, but also Manatee County utilities could accept this technology. It could be used statewide to increase water storage, which is critical throughout the state. So we will be submitting that application to the tune of about $1 million for next year and continuing on to the total $8 million project over the next 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. And we look forward to working with you on that project. Next is Ms. Shea with the Community Alliance of Sarasota County followed by the Florida Center for Early Children, Early Childhood with Ms. Treharn, and finally, in the whole is Dr. Ruth Brandwine with the National Association of Social Workers. Ms. Shea, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the delegation, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you today on behalf of the Community Alliance of Sarasota County. I think most of you are aware the Community Alliance has been working actively in our community since 2001, and each year we hold a legislative summit to determine our community's legislative priorities in the area of health and human services and education. Following the legislative summit, we host the Legislative Breakfast of Champions, hosted for you, where we present this delegation our community's priorities. Both of these events have taken place to the legislative delegation prior to the legislative delegation meeting, and then we have come here and been able to discuss the priority issues at this meeting. However, this year, due to the early legislative schedule, we will not actually be holding our 6th annual legislative summit until tomorrow. The community will participate as we have in the past, reviewing all legislative issues submitted and selecting the top 2 priorities for each system. We will then present them to you in our traditional Blue Book fashion at our 7th annual Legislative Breakfast of Champions on Friday, October the 20th. We hope you all received the invitation and are planning to join us at this important event. The community really loves seeing all of you at the breakfast. It's a great opportunity for you to hear the important issues facing our community, for the community to hear from you about your legislative challenges and thoughts, and to appreciate you and thank you for all of the service that you do for our community and our state. Last year, we presented Senator Stubbe with the Most Excellent Attendance Award. You too can earn that if you keep coming. Senator Stubbe has not missed one in all of these years. And just a few general comments as we prepare for our 2018 legislative session. We really urge you to not allow any further tax cuts in this state. Many of our social service programs and education are not at full funding prior to the cuts in 29. And the needs of our citizens of our community have more than multiplied since that time. It's really becoming more and more difficult for county governments and nonprofit organizations to operate. Additionally, the House rule imposed in 2017 and now again in 2018 requiring a bill and funding request be filed for any additional program funding has created undue burden to our organizations. It is especially difficult if we have recurring funds in a program and risk losing those funds by requesting additional funding, and then it all becomes non-recurring funds. It is a risk most of us are not willing to take, and yet it creates a limit on the services we can provide to our clients on wait list. We ask our representatives to please take this into consideration in future sessions so that this rule never applies again. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. The Alliance appreciates all that you do. And Representative Boyd, I just want you to know we took a vote on you and you're not going anywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Thank you for being here. Next, and we're looking forward to our blue books. Ms. Treharn with the Florida Center for Early Childhood will be up next. National Association of Social Workers, Dr. Brandwine is up after that. Senior Friendship Centers, Erin McLeod is in the hole. Ms. Treharn, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and the opportunity to speak to you about the need for fully funded 2 early childhood court infant teams for Circuit 12. And you're aware of this priority based on your participation at the Champions for Breakfast for Champions last year, where this priority was presented. So to recap, Florida's early childhood court, sometimes referred to as Baby Court, is adapted from the National 0 to 3's Safe Baby Court Team project. This approach to working with children and their families in the dependency court system is based on 10 core components that lead to increased permanency, fewer returned children into care, and improved child well-being. 2 independent national studies have found outcomes for children involved in early childhood courts as significantly improved over more traditional case management models. Florida's Early Childhood Court Initiative is now operating in 17 circuits in Florida and has been recognized as one of Touch Watch's productivity awards for cost savings potential for these services. Circuit 12 has been experiencing a high volume of infants and toddlers entering foster care due to the opioid crisis. Infants and young children removed from their biological families experience high risk for later life difficulties. Research shows the first 1,000 days of a child's life are critical for brain development, physical and emotional development. Early childhood court is a specialized model providing intensive case management, mental health, and developmental therapy services wrapped around these children and their families to increase the time to permanency, reduce the return to care, and improve child well-being. All of these outcomes were achieved in the national model and demonstrated through 2 independent studies. This funding request is to fund an additional 1.5 teams in Sarasota and DeSoto counties. The court team consists of 1 full-time case manager, 1 full-time mental health clinician, 1 half-time family support worker, and 1 part-time project manager. Manatee County will have 2 fully funded court teams kicking off October 2nd, as funded through Manatee County government pending approval and the Baranchik Family Foundation. Sarasota has funding tentatively through Sarasota County government for 1 half team and is in partnership with the Baranchik Family Foundation. This project would be in partnership with the YMCA Safe Children Coalition, our community-based care agency. We believe these most vulnerable infants and toddlers deserve the best start to life and long-term outcomes to improve to reduce costs in the future. Thank you for considering this priority.
Thank you, and thank you very much for presenting to us today. Next will be Dr. Brandwein. Senior Friendship Centers, Ms. Erin McLeod will be up after that, and then the Sertoma Speech and Hearing Foundation with Mr. David Ford Coates representing them will be in the hall. Dr. Brandwein, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome. Nice to see you again.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Brandwein. I'm representing the National Association of Social Workers, and I want to thank you again for the opportunity to present to you this morning. Because it's so early in the year, I will just highlight our priority areas, and you have a full copy of our legislative agenda, and I'll be following up with each of you, and welcome to the Children, Family, and Elder Committee, Senator Stubbe, you'll be hearing from me. First, on behavioral health, and by behavioral health, I mean mental health and drug abuse. We support the expansion and improvement of behavioral health services for those serving in the military, for veterans and their families, the aging and their caretakers, people with disabilities, and other marginalized individuals. And I know that the hurricane may have caused more stress on the budget, but please do not forget our most vulnerable people. We also encourage legislation that utilizes behavioral health treatment options rather than prisons, and we are asking you to change the laws to allow clinical licensed social workers to provide and be reimbursed for Medicaid mental health services independently. Currently, they can only be reimbursed under the supervision of a psychiatrist or another doctor. Yet social workers are the largest mental health professional group and have years of pre- and postmaster's degree supervision before they can be licensed. By doing so, you'll expand access to services at a savings to the state. We're also requesting fair and marketable reimbursement rates for social workers providing behavioral health services through both public and private service providers. In terms of child welfare services, we support efforts to ensure the caseloads for child welfare investigators and dependency case managers are set at a level to provide optimal care. One of the primary reasons now for the lack of workforce retention is unmanageable caseloads. We're getting a turnover on people because they can't take it. We encourage the legislature in its efforts to recruit, train, and retain qualified child welfare staff, including promoting full utilization of Title IV-E funds, for which there is some reimbursement from the feds. Finally, in criminal justice, we urge you to pass juvenile diversion programs to decrease the disproportionate representation of marginal populations in the juvenile justice system, and we support legislation to encourage voter engagement, and in particular, the right to vote for people formerly incarcerated on probation or parole. We oppose any efforts that limit accessibility to voting, such as voting suppression efforts. In housing, we continue to have the problem of homelessness for individuals. Someone else has spoken about the Sudakov Trust Funds. Please utilize that for housing as it's supposed to be. And I thank you very much for the opportunity. You'll be hearing from me later on in the session.
Thank you. Thank you for being, we look forward to talking to you again, and thank you for your cognizance of the time. I saw you looking up the clock recurrently. Ms. McLeod, you're up next with Senior Friendship Centers. Sertoma Speech and Hearing Foundation, David Ford Coates will be up next after that, and Jono Miller with speaking regarding Amendment 1 will be in the hole. Ms. McLeod, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of the board, the staff, the almost 1,000 volunteers and more than 15,000 seniors served by the Friendship Centers in Southwest Florida, I really want to thank the delegation for all your hard work, and thank you for entertaining my comments this morning. Thanks for all of you that took time to meet with me and respond to my request. The Friendship Centers was founded here in Sarasota County in 1973, and our mission is to promote health, dignity, and quality of life throughout the journey of aging. We're all on that journey, so this touches every single one in this room. Today, Southwest Florida, specifically Sarasota County, is the dress rehearsal for the rest of the country and how we are dealing with aging. And the Friendship Centers is proud to be serving in a myriad of different ways. You have a fact sheet that's in your book, but I will let you know that we not only provide preventive care, education, direct care for the frail, including our adult day programs, in-home supportive services that are funded by state dollars and federal dollars, food for the insecure, medical and dental care, and the list goes on and on. We have about $3 million in volunteer value that we bring to our communities, so we really try to make the most of every dollar we have. This is our first time coming before you to request any funding like this, so I'm still a newbie. But we are requesting some non-recurring funding, specifically for some priority items that provide infrastructure for us to serve all of our clientele and the communities. We are working from a 30-year reserve study of our buildings, and so we have some infrastructural needs that we have prioritized for you in a list. There are about 10 items, including replacement of ceilings from water damage, roof repair, elevator updates, flooring, some windows in our big senior center in Sarasota, restrooms for our adult day program where we are serving those with dementia and Alzheimer's. We have skin in the game as the Friendship Centers. We are willing to put some funding toward this, and we have sought local match funding to help leverage state dollars. So I just want you to know that we really are serious about this, and we would like some help from the state. I'm going to put on another hat right now and just say I'm on the board for the Florida Council on Aging, and it is a priority in the state to increase the funding for home and community-based care, community care for the elderly and home care for the elderly. This is kind of no-brainer money. If we can address the 10% of the people on the waiting list, which are the most frail, we can save the state more than $17 million, so I hope you'll consider that. And Senator Stubbe, I'll be in touch with you, and we'll try to get you up to speed on all things aging and elderly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for presenting to us today and for all the things that you're doing for our elderly population. Next will be Mr. Ford Coates. Mr. Miller will be in the whole Amendment 1, and Ms. Maria Evie with United Way Suncoast will be up next after that. So, Mr. Ford Coates, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
All right, good morning. Thanks for having me today. And my name is David Ford Coates, and I'm from right here in Sarasota, born and raised. I'm here today as a volunteer to thank you for your past support of deaf children in our delegation and throughout Florida. I'm asking you to please help us again. This year, we are seeking the following 3 things. 1, to continue funding the Auditory Oral Intervention Program. This program helps children who are deaf from birth through age 2 to get tested and begin learning to listen and talk. Families are requesting $875,000 statewide for this unparalleled effort. Prelingual hearing loss requires intense intervention to succeed. Number 2, to continue recurring funding for the Auditory Oral Education Grants. These funds help children who are profoundly deaf, ages 3 through 6, learn to listen and talk to prepare to enter the mainstream. The recurring funding is currently at $750,000 statewide. Number 3, we are also introducing legislation to provide hearing aids to kids. This is currently in bill drafting, but we will reach out in the near future with a copy to ask for your support, so please stay tuned. In closing, these programs help change lives forever. With these resources, the kids can learn to overcome their challenges, integrate with society, and become productive members of our community. So our delegation has always stood strong and tall on these efforts, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please continue helping us fight the good fight. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ford Coates, and thanks for all your efforts on such a noble cause. Mr. Miller, Amendment 1, followed by United Way, Suncoast, Miss Evie, and then Why Dad Matters, Miss Glenn Gibellina, Mr. Glenn Gibellina, I'm sorry, is third. Mr. Miller, you are recognized for 3 minutes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. This is my 3rd year speaking as a citizen, and I really appreciate the opportunity. I actually want to talk about 3 topics, and the first is the Amendment 1 money. As you know, each year millions of dollars are sent from your district to Tallahassee as a result of the 2014 Amendment 1 legislation. In FY 15-16, it was $20 million from Sarasota and 15 from Manatee. And in 16-17, $21.6 million from Sarasota and $15.6 from Manatee. No one expects when we send $1 to Tallahassee that that dollar will come back to the district in its entirety, but it would be nice to get something back. And we have a lot of great projects. They're sort of the opposite of shovel-ready. These are projects that don't need any shovels. They just need the money to go ahead and acquire the land. So we have projects like Legacy Trail and Orange Hammock, and I hope you will do what you can. I think there's optimism this year. My understanding is DEP is asking for $50 million for land acquisition. It's not the $300 million that we had previously, but it's better than 0, which we had last year. And I think Senator Bradley is also involved in trying to do better by this program. I don't know if you can see my necktie, but our state tree, the cabbage palm, has problems. And one of the problems is we don't know how big the problem is. In Palmetto, ironically, and in southern Hillsborough and Sarasota, there's a new disease called Texas Phoenix palm decline. It's killing both our native cabbage palms and other landscape palms, Phoenix palms. We don't really know how it spreads very clearly, how bad it's going to be, and that's compounded by the fact that the state of Florida has had what they call a palm team, a group of 4 members from UF-IFAS that have researched palm diseases for the last 30 years. They're all in the process of retiring. These positions need to be filled as recurring funding so that the landscape industry that relies heavily on palms will have the money to go forward. Let me get to the third one, which is each year for the past few years there's been springs legislation. Typically, people think that our springs end around Tampa, and we have 2 very crucial springs here in Sarasota County, Warm Mineral and Little Salt Springs. If there is springs legislation, anything you could do to tack on any amount of money would be helpful. If these springs stop flowing, it's going to be really bad for Northport. Everybody who didn't do anything to help is going to be under question. So it would be great if you could just find some more funding. And then finally, I just wanted to emphasize a point that was made earlier. New College is growing, and we desperately need the money to fund the infrastructure and facilities that are needed for that additional growth. That money was vetoed or lost last year, and I hope you can get it back for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for presenting us to us today. Ms. Evie will be up next. Mr. Gibellina, and I apologize if I'm battering that name, will be up after that. And then Center Stone of Florida, Melissa Larkin Skinner will be presenting for them in the whole. Ms. Evie, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having us, and thank you for everything you do for our districts. I'm Maria Avey from the Sarasota Area United Way. And our organization serves children and families in DeSoto, Hillsborough, Manatee, Pinellas, and Sarasota counties. In your packet, you have our United Way legislative agendas, which focuses on the challenges of ALICE families. ALICE families are the households that are asset-limited, income-constrained workers. And these are individuals that work but live right above the poverty line. And in Sarasota County, we're talking about 25% of the families are Alice families, so they're one disaster away from not being able to pay for their bills. We're asking for your support for our VITA program. In 2016, the state appropriated $500,000 for the United Ways for free tax prep for our Alice families. That's our low to moderate working families. 1 in 5 eligible Floridians do not they do not apply for the tax credits that they deserve. And in Sarasota County alone, that's $13 million that's left on the table each year for our working class. Federal tax credits for working families help stimulate our economy and generate state and local taxes. We're also asking that you support the Bright Future expansion with 100% tuition, and to please look at smart workforce solutions that are brought to you, because there are many workforce initiatives in place that really are not working for our working families. I also want to share that United Way has been working with our agencies in the community after Irma to be able to help our working families. So we're going to see a high volume of calls for families that were not able to work during Hurricane Irma because they do not get PTO and they don't get paid when they're working. So we're working very close with our partners so we can get money out to the family so they can pay their rent and be able to pay their bills that they need to pay. And I am done before 3 minutes. So thank you very much, and thank you for everything you do.
And thank you for giving us the balance of your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for all your work, and we will continue to work with the United Way.
Thank you.
And then in my second battering of the name, I noticed that I battered yours, Miss Avey. Mr. Gibellina, I hope. Why Dads Matter. Next, Centerstone of Florida, Larkin Skinner, and then the Jewish Family and Children's Services Suncoast, Rose Chapman will be presenting for us. Mr. Gibellina, I hope you are recognized for 3 minutes, sir. Welcome.
I was looking for the extra 42 seconds. Okay. Anyways, my name is Glenn Gibellina, and good to be here. Thank you so much. Newt, great grand opening. Glad you came over on this side of the bridge for an office. Greg, I missed your presentation last night. I was at the Manatee County School Board looking for about $10 million to harden the 3 new schools we're building. Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for everything you do. Thank you. Joe, how you doing? And Mr. Boyd, this is 3 times in 3 days. We have to stop meeting like this. We're on a roll. All right, on a more serious note, my name is Glenn Gibellina. I'm president and founder of Why Dads Matter. We are a nonprofit organization that empowers parents to stand up for their rights. We're just a small part of a larger picture. Around the country, there are delegations that are singing the same message here. Just this week, there was a collaborative effort in Washington, D.C., a million parent march that happened in Washington for our elected officials. So this is a nationwide problem for parental rights. Why do we need this? Both the House and the Senate have passed the shared parental rights. Thanks to you guys, you did a great job in bringing this to a successful vote in both houses, not once, but twice. So what went wrong? Governor Scott vetoed it. That's what went wrong. So we have to take this to the next level. Family court is not working because it's become a $50 billion business. Its original intent has been shadowed by high conflict attorneys, judges that have immunity, and a suppression of our constitutional right to be a parent. This Constitution has been taken word for word from the federal Constitution amendment from the Parental Rights Organization. Senator Lindsey Graham introduced the Parental Rights Amendment, Resolution 48, and co-sponsored is Marco Rubio. So he is aware of the problems that we have here, just trying to be parents. I have a list of additional information I'll put into the record. I appreciate your time. Listen, we just want to be parents, and I've been here for 5 years, singing a song. We've made progress, but not perfection. I think it's time to take it out of the veto situation and put it in the Constitution. You know, our forefathers, really, they would be rolling in their graves if we knew that we needed a constitutional amendment to have equal time with our children. But unfortunately, it has come to that. So I urge you to take this proposal back to Tallahassee and work with the millions of parents around this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for all the work you're doing. Ms. Larkin Skinner will be next. Rose Chapman with the Jewish Family and Children's Services of Suncoast will be after that. And then Easter Seals, represented by Tom Waters, is in the hole. Ms. Larkin Skinner, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Melissa Larkin Skinner. I'm the CEO of Centerstone of Florida. We're a behavioral health organization providing services in Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. So we serve about 16,000 or so of your constituents every year. One of the challenges that we're facing in Florida is a shortage of psychiatrists. And it's one thing Representative Gonzalez and I, and Representative Boyd and I, and Representative Girders and I, and Stubbe as well have talked about, Senator Stubbe. It continues to be a problem. And as a matter of fact, it's estimated that we need 30 psychiatrists per 100,000 residents. And what we actually have is 7 psychiatrists per 100,000 residents. So that kind of gives you an idea of how desperate we are. So in the past 2-3 years, you have supported the Centerstone Psychiatric Residency Program. And because of your support, we've been able to get that residency program off the ground. And we've actually even been able to expand it from 9 slots to 16 slots. So every year we're training 16 future psychiatrists. And we'll actually have our first graduating class in June. So we're very excited about that. The reason that I'm here today is to let you know that we still need your support. It's non-recurring funding. We have to go back every year. We want to continue to have that program. We want to continue to grow our psychiatrists locally. And then we expect that at least 2/3 of them will remain in the area. So that'll be strengthening the behavioral health system of our communities. Unfortunately, 15 counties in Florida have no psychiatrist at all, and another 7 only have 1. And then 47% are 60 and over. So the bulk of our psychiatrists are approaching retirement faster than we're replacing them. So if you could support that again, that would be fantastic. And Representative Gonzalez, thank you for agreeing to sponsor that bill that's required in the House. I appreciate that. 2 other things that I just wanted to mention is throughout Irma, Centerstone Hospital remained functioning. We actually sheltered and provided services to 55 patients. Never lost power, thankfully. And we actually had 3 doctors on site, and 2 of them were residents. So they were really integral to helping us continue to provide services and keep our patients safe. We also sheltered 141 staff and their loved ones and their pets. And so I believe that Centerstone has kind of proven and continues to prove its worth to our communities in trying to keep people safe. 2 things, CAT teams and FIT teams. I just want to mention them briefly. They've proven to be quite the return on investment for the state of Florida. You have supported them in the past. They're still in the Department of Children and Families budget, and we'd just like to see you support them again because they are keeping families together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thank you for presenting. Next, we'll be having Ms. Chapman, followed by Tom Waters with the Easter Seals of Southwest Florida. And then in the hole will be the League of Women Voters, represented by Ms. Lourdes Ramirez. Ms. Chapman, welcome. You are recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. First, I'd like to thank the entire delegation for their efforts on behalf of the mental health needs of families and children in our community, and for helping JFCS obtain the appropriations request last year. In particular, Senator Stubbe, thank you so much for making sure the Senate was on target with our request. And this year, I want to thank Representative Gruters for helping to sponsor the program as well. But all of you really played a large part in our getting funding. And of course, we will need continued funding for next year for this program. Just to give you a quick informational piece on what the program is, the Children's Crisis Team is a program that is designed to prevent children from being Baker Acted by providing 24/7 immediate help and assistance to a child who's having a crisis in their home, in the school, or in the community, we send a staff that is trained and clinically trained in trauma services as well as mental health license services to go to the home immediately and subside whatever emergency is happening that the child is presenting. A large issue that has been happening, as many of you are aware of, is the opioid crisis. And because the families are using these drugs, it's creating severe family issues, and the children are responding and reacting to these issues with a mental health crisis, or the children are using and having severe emotional issues as well. Because of the 24/7 help that we provide these families, I would say that 95% of these families have not needed Baker acting into more intense hospitalizations, and we have prevented Department of Children and Families from getting involved, and we have avoided foster care placement of these children. We we go in and we do de-escalation techniques that the staff is very well trained in, and the families are seen maybe every day for a week, a month, or as needed, until we can assure that these families are connected with other organizations such as Centerstone, such as Coastal, or to JFCS to receive the more long-term need that they need. Sometimes these children have issues in the middle of the night and organizations are not able to provide that immediate service. So we go in and we hold their hand until they can get their next appointment in one of these agencies. The other thing is that JFCS has lots of wraparound services. So often we enter situations where the family is having financial assistance needs, parenting needs, and we then hook them up with some of our other programs to assure that these other needs are being taken care of as well. So this children's crisis stream then helps the family in total, and the organization then stays with the family as long as we need. So thank you again for all your efforts, and good luck this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman, and I'm sure you'll be with us throughout the whole process.
I will see you all in town.
Yes, ma'am. We look forward to it. Next up is Easter Seals with Mr. Tom Waters, sir. Next, after that, will be Ms. Lourdes Ramirez with the League of Women Voters, and then the Salvation Army, represented by Paul Simon and Amy Johnson. Look forward to you all in the hole. So, Mr. Waters, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. Appreciate everything you all are doing. It's been a long couple of weeks, and for you to be on top of things the way you are is very, very impressive. So thank you, and hoping that great safety and for all you and your families as well. I want to take just a couple of minutes and update you. You all know that you've done a great service in the last year or two in providing some key funding for early intervention and for adult employment. And those two programs have the greatest opportunity to help our area become disability strong. And as we focused on becoming autism strong, one of the key elements that we've been able to look at and to hopefully have us in partnership together provide is that early diagnostic equipment, that ability to diagnose early so we can do the early intervention early. And we have the opportunity to do that not just for Easter Seals, but for the entire disabilities community. So when you look at that proposal, it's early intervention, it's creating the ability for us to do the therapies, all the partnerships, the 30 or 40 that you're aware of with the arts organizations, with Mote Marine Laboratory, with other places that stimulate individuals' abilities to shine. Please note that that early intervention continues to be the key, and for a minimal investment, for every dollar we invest there, we get $8.60 in return in future services that won't be needed in return to the economy. So early intervention being the key. Please look at that again and look at ways that we can make that happen, especially with our partnerships. Everything I'm talking about here is in partnership with all of you and with other nonprofits in the community. Secondly, the VR for VR. Literally, what you have the ability to do is to bring the technology that's been created by USF in Tampa to this region so that we can have folks simulate that job training. I've heard a number of times today about low unemployment, the need for employees. We have quadrupled the number of folks with disabilities that we're getting employed. Think about the difference that makes. If we can have the efficiencies and the effectiveness of you coming in and learning that job through the simulator, as pilots have been doing things for years, we avoid having to go to 5 locations. We save money, we save time, and we get them better prepared through distractors that can be a part of it to do the job. So some of the employers in this area, There's a lot of great data on having somebody with varying abilities work for you and what it does for your workplace. Enhances it tremendously. So I encourage you, we're talking about changing lives, we're talking about saving money, we're talking about doing it in partnership, and I also want, as we think ahead to that word that everybody hears all the time, autism, when 35% of the folks we're serving are on that spectrum, and that's changed in the last 5 years, think about what's going to happen there. So let's get ahead of this, or at least try to catch up. Again, gentlemen, I thank you for your good work, and I hope that updates you a little bit on what's happened from last year to where we can take it this year.
Thank you very much, sir, and we look forward to continuing our communications and our work with you.
Thank you.
Next is Lourdes Ramirez, followed by Salvation Army, and then Dr. Crosby with Moat Marine Laboratory. Sir, you're in the hole. Ms. Ramirez, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you
morning.
on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Sarasota County. I'm here with our president, Phyllis Vogel, who asked me to provide you with a list of our state and local 2018 legislative priorities. This is not a detailed list. We can provide you with a full list and would like to discuss it with you on a one-to-one basis. The first priority is election and general law. We should do everything in our power to encourage more citizens to vote. Do not pass laws that discourage voters or make it more difficult for citizens to vote. We should fix that loophole that allows write-in candidates to close primaries. This has been abused frequently in our local elections. We support the automatic voter registration, such as when a citizen goes and gets their driver's license, they should be able to automatically register to vote. As for general law, we support home rule. As you would not like the feds to impose their will on state law, we ask you not to impose your will on local laws. The second priority is education. We want to ensure that there's adequate funding for public schools and that charter schools are handled by our local school boards so they can ensure fiscal responsibility and accountability of our tax dollars. The third is our natural resources. We support the full funding of Florida Forever land acquisition program as overwhelmingly voted on by the voters in 2014. We support the ban on fracking and support legislation to allow more use of solar power in our local state. For gun safety, the League supports the ban of semi-automatic assault weapons and large capacity ammo. We support universal background checks and oppose guns on campus. And the fifth one, healthcare. In this, we urge you to not pass legislation that would negatively impact Medicaid. We support healthcare for low-income, uninsured Floridians and support the critical health care services such as kids care and for mental health services. This is our brief list of our 2018 legislative priorities: election and general law, education, natural resources, gun safety, and healthcare. We appreciate the opportunities to voice our concerns today and look forward to meeting each one of you on a one-to-one basis so we can discuss this in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez, and thank you for presenting to us today. Next, we'll have the Salvation Army, and I'm not even going to guess who's substituting for Amy Johnson, so I won't try. Moat Marine, Dr. Crosby will be up next after that, and in the hole is the Sarasota YMCA with Mr. Trombetta. Salvation Army, please identify yourselves and let us know you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Major Chuck Whiten with the Salvation Army. Been in town for 2 months and glad to be here to speak about the continuation of homeless, reoccurring continuum of care staffing and challenge grants. We see this as a very successful funding and ask for it to be considered and considered increasing as well. We're getting very positive results. It's the only, as we see it, low barrier funding that's available in the challenge grant funding, and it's meeting the needs of families, and we're having very great success. As you can see, in 2016, 46 families were stably housed by the end of the cycle. In 2017, 74+% remained in permanent housing. We see it as an effective use of funds. It's helping us to meet the needs of the community, and it's helping us to house the homeless. And we're grateful for the opportunity, very grateful for the funding and what it's doing in our community to improve quality of life.
And I'm Paul Sutton. I'm a volunteer at the Salvation Army. I am
the Executive Director of the Sarasota Coalition on Substance Abuse and the Chairperson of the Community Alliance. And the reason I volunteer at the Salvation Army is because they're changing lives. And I've talked to several of you already and had your support on legislation last year to fund recovery beds at the Salvation Army. These are a total of 60 beds, and they cost $35 a day for the bed. And the beds are so much cheaper than the alternatives. The alternatives are the hospital, the jail, EMTs, all the more expensive solutions. Now, here's the advantage of the beds. When people complete the community recovery program, more than 70% of them are still sober a year after commencing. That's a tremendous success rate that any recovery program would be proud to have. And this program serves people at no cost. So it serves our indigent population. And here's the areas of our community that are positively impacted by the program. First of all, overdose deaths. It's a problem for the entire country, but particularly Manatee County and now, unfortunately, Sarasota County as well. Abstinence, people gaining sobriety, that has an obvious impact on overdose deaths. The homeless. When they surveyed the homeless individuals and asked them, do you have a disabling condition? And if so, what is the disabling condition that caused you to be homeless? 63% of them responded that it was substance abuse. So if you want to have an impact on homelessness, treat the cause, not just the symptoms. And then one that's been brought up by several speakers prior to me, child welfare. The number one reason in this judicial circuit for children being placed into protective custody of foster care is substance abuse by the parents. We can impact the major issues that are facing this community by providing recovery beds and treating the cause and not just the symptoms of substance abuse. And the Salvation Army offers us the opportunity to do that.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for the work that you are all doing. Next, we'll have Dr. Crosby, Sarasota YMCA with Mr. Trombetta, and then Ms. Judy Maritini with the Florida National Organization for Women. Dr. Crosby, always a pleasure to have you. You are recognized, sir, for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Senator, representatives. Chairman Gonzalez, I appreciate the surgical precision with which you are running this meeting and the efficiency that comes from that. I admire it as a scientist myself. With respect to Representative Boyd, we know you're going to go out strong, sir, in your last session, and we're going to miss having you representing us there. But I do want to remind you that Moat has 1,700 volunteers. And after your term is completed, we would look forward to you joining the ranks of the volunteers at Moat. I know you have much to contribute to us with your intellect and strength. So with respect to IRMA, Moat Marine Laboratory, our 5 campuses fared relatively well compared to the impacts to our broader community, and our hearts certainly go out to everyone in the community, many of our staff, many of our neighbors who were hit much harder than our facilities were. And I do appreciate the local law enforcement allowing me to traverse back and forth each day to the lab and the aquarium here to make sure all was good there with the animals and our research facilities there. With respect to our legislative priorities, you have our priorities in front of you, and I won't go over each and every one of them. I go by the rule of 5. If you can't keep your priorities to 5 or less, it's a laundry list, so we kept them to 5 or less, and I'd be happy to talk with you about them at any time. But there's 2 I would like to highlight. One of them that you have heard from my colleague presidents at the institutions of higher education is the wonderful partnership between Moat and USF Sarasota Manatee, in which actually their laboratories are on our campus. Our faculty actually teach many of their classes. But even more importantly, I think, is the research experience for undergraduates program that we implemented as part of that program. We've had over 40 students, and not just from USF. We have enabled students from State College and from New College to also participate in that program, and that gives those students heads-up advantages over their peers when they graduate for jobs or going to graduate school. The second item I'd like to emphasize is infrastructure. We're committed. I have 35 PhDs, over 200 staff. We're committed to hiring 10 more PhDs by 2020. I got no place to put them. We invest about $145,000 in each one of those PhDs a year. PhDs on average bring in about $300,000 of grants per year. Great return on investment for the state. Would really appreciate your help with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and we look forward to meeting with you and working with you more in the future. Senator Stubbe for a quick comment or question.
Just quickly, so, the coral program you have down in the Keys, how did they withstand the storm?
That's a great question. We were able to transfer 90% of the about 30-something thousand coral seed for the state-funded project inside the Category 5 resistant building that we just opened down there. They survived on life support very, very well, as the coral gene bank for the entire Florida Keys survived the storm down there. So we just opened that new facility down there, and I'd like to do 5 times what we did in Monroe County right here on City Island.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so moving on, Mr. Trombetta is going to be presenting to us next. Ms. Maricini with the Florida National Organization for Women is on deck with Ms. McKinnon with the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network in the whole. Mr. Trombetta, welcome, sir. You're welcome. You are recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I stand here in place of Laura Gilbert, who's our Sarasota CEO, who couldn't be here this morning because she's out doing the good work of running a community-based care agency, being a leader in youth development and healthy living and social responsibility, as all wives are. And she's doing a great job with that. So I appreciate your indulgence in allowing me to talk about some of our statewide programs, as well as reemphasizing the point that so many others have made about the foster care system that we do run and our role in that and the importance of continued funding for it. Our statewide programs, as you know, Representative Gonzalez, we appreciate your help with the safety around water. Between Memorial Day and Labor Day, there were 25 deaths in Florida for drowning, and that's reported by Pool Safely at the the Product Safety Commission. So we're attempting to eradicate that. We've got some programs up and running, and all statewide, all of our associations statewide. And we will be rolling out this specific iteration of the program here later this year as we continue to work with Department of Health to make sure that happens. Also coming to Sarasota is our Youth in Government program. This is a middle school and high school program that teaches kids about civics and gives them an actual real-life experience in civics, capstone by a visit to either the middle school goes to a statewide conference of their own, the high schoolers, we bring them to Tallahassee. They sit in your chairs, they sit in your seats, and hear the same issues that you guys do and make decisions of their own volition based on the curriculum that we've taught them. It's a great program. I myself am a product of the program, and we appreciate the funding we get for that. Y-Reads, our YMCA Reads program, is a K through 3 reading program, reading improvement program. These are kids who are not reading at grade level in kindergarten through 3rd grade. We've got statistics and we've got evidence-based showing two grade level increase for each of these kids that we're able to teach. We've got that program in Inglewood. We've also got it up in Manatee, among other areas around the state. I want to thank you all for the good work that you do and the great support you've given the YMCA over the years. We've got skin in the game, and you've been able to help us maximize that and leverage that to the best of our ability. So thank you all very much, and I'll yield the rest of my time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and so do the rest of our presenters. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in drown-proofing children. Ms. Maricini with Florida NOW. Do not see Ms. Maricini. Okay. We'll be moving on to Ms. McKinnon. Ms. McKinnon with the Central Behavioral Health Network. Do not see Ms. McKinnon. Which brings us to Kathleen Housewart with the Lutheran Services. I'll give you a moment to get yourself together over there while we announce Janet Kahn on deck for the Early Learning Coalition of Sarasota and Ms. Ann Bezio. Bezio for the South Florida Museum. I'm so glad that Representative Boyd is keeping me honest here. I don't know what I'm going to do without you, sir. Yes, surgical precision, indeed. Ms. Houseworth, you ready?
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. I don't know if I am, but either way, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. I am the new Executive Director of the Lutheran Services Guardianship Program, designated as the Office of Public Guardian, serving Sarasota, DeSoto, and Highlands counties. I'm here today representing Lutheran Services in Florida, based in Tampa, with approximately 1,500 employees serving over 40 counties across the state, in such programs as Head Start, foster care, youth shelters, mental health and substance abuse counseling, refugee services and job placement, and of course our guardianship program. You've received our materials, and I just want to go over a couple of highlights. Under substance abuse and mental health, LSF, along with the Association of Managing Entities, supports $20 million in recurring funding to recover services lost to a lapse in federal funding for detoxification services, residential placement services, outpatient treatment, and preventative services, and giving our opioid crisis, these are critical to our state. And also restoring previous funding levels for central receiving facilities, care coordination, and housing services to allow for safe and stable services to the severe and persistently mentally ill who otherwise burden other costly systems such as hospitals, jails, and the court system. Under Department of Juvenile Justice, along with the Florida Network of Youth and Family Services, LSF supports the Stop Now and Plan expansion of $2.3 million to provide this evidence-based program for 6 to 11-year-olds who are at risk for delinquency, and a $200,000 increase in capacity for the Children in Need, Family in Need, otherwise known as the SINS-FINS program, to meet increasing demand for services for chronic runaways and truant children. And finally, under the guardianship program, many of you know that guardianship programs serve the most vulnerable individuals, including older adults with dementia, those with traumatic brain injury, individuals with severe and chronic mental illness, and those with developmental disabilities who may have outlived their caregivers. This population is extremely vulnerable to abuse, neglect, and exploitation, sometimes by strangers, but sadly often by family members and those they trust. The list of services that we provide to advocate and protect those individuals is long, and I look forward to discussing with those with you individually. But under our statewide guardianship coalition, we support the following. Number one, ongoing recurring funding for the Office of Public and Professional Guardianship under the Department of Elder Affairs. 2, legislation being drafted by Senator Pasadomo to exempt from public records home addresses, telephone numbers, dates of birth, photographs, places of employment, locations of schools and daycares of public guardians and their spouses and children. And finally, we support funding for the Department of Elder Affairs study. The cost of award of our current contract right now includes allocations based on formulas that from 1999 to 2006. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for presenting for us and for accommodating being moved up on the schedule a little bit. Next is Ms. Khan with the Early Learning Coalition of Sarasota. South Florida Museum, Brinan Bezio will be after that. And then the Selby Botanical Gardens, represented by Jennifer Romaniecki, will be in the hole. Ms. Khan, 3 minutes. Welcome.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to talk to you today about the funding inequities within the early learning system. And the current model is based on 1999, when the original school readiness legislation was first established. And as you can imagine, across the state, including Sarasota, there's been a significant change in demographics and issues facing the communities. So to give you an example, regionally, we are not that much different than Manatee at this time. Yes, we have a high elderly population, but we also have a lot of young families with children living in poverty, and yet the Manatee Early Learning Coalition's budget is double what Sarasota's is. So basically, Sarasota children are being deprived of the opportunity for early learning experiences and to have financial assistance to access high-quality childcare and preschool programs that would prepare them for school and for life. So the Auditor General back in 2011 did a report of the early learning system and cited this as an issue and instructed the Office of Early Learning to attempt to address it. They tried to, as you can imagine, using existing funding and reallocating existing funding. There was quite an uproar. So the counties that would lose money really advocated and lobbied the governor to squash it, which he did, but still instructed that it needed to be addressed. So we are many years later, and it still has not been addressed. The reason I'm bringing it up this year in particular, after working behind the scenes for many years to try to get it resolved, is that we discovered that there were large surpluses in many of those same counties that were vehemently opposing to looking at the reallocation of the formula. And so those surpluses were allowed to be carried over, and now there'll be even more surpluses. So the fact that there are surpluses in communities, and some communities have no wait list, and we consistently have a wait list of 500 children waiting and run huge deficits that are not always covered by the state reallocation of funds that they try to do at the end of the year, warrants that this issue be looked at, and it appears that it's going to require some legislative action to do that. So on behalf of the children in Sarasota waiting for care, I urge you to take a look at this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. I'm just gonna go with Newt because he hasn't had an opportunity in a while.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Representative Newt, you'll be the only question or comment, and then we'll move on to the next.
It's just a
presenter.
comment. Didn't we pass legislation to do a study on the whole early childhood funding system last session? I thought we passed some legislation to look at the whole state.
I don't think so. It does.
Stubbe.
Just 2 seconds. Can you, Libby, can you raise your hand? Can you get with my aide and set up an appointment so we can discuss it further? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Khan, for your presentation. Ms. Brinann Bezio, you are next. Jennifer Romaniecki on deck, and Christine Johnson in the hole. Ms. Bezio, you are recognized for 3 minutes, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Brinann Bezio, rhymes with Ohio, my husband's name. But thank you. I am very happy to be here today. We, as a museum, we've been in existence for 70 years, the only natural history museum on the Gulf Coast of Florida, with a planetarium and a manatee rehab aquarium. And sadly, we lost Snooty in a tragic accident this summer. But we are committed as a board and staff to move on and continue our program with the Manatee Rescue and Rehab Partnership in rehabilitating manatees. Snooty allowed us to begin that program 25 years ago, and since then we have rehabbed 33 manatees in 25 years. So that will be his legacy as our continuing that program. We're an asset to the educational, economic, and tourism landscapes. We serve nearly 100,000 visitors a year, 70% of which are from Florida. 23% come from Sarasota County. We have various partnerships that we're very proud to work with in our region. One group is the Science and Environmental Council of Southwest Florida, and as we do education on conservation, we work together as a big group. We also work with our higher learning partners, and that is USF, Sarasota Manatee, New College of Florida, Ringling College, and SCF. We do internships, we co-teach classes, we provide a lot of good higher learning experiences. In terms of K-12, we serve 10 counties worth of schools. They come to our museum for field trips in all the sciences. 34% of those students come from Sarasota area schools. Our commitment to early learning is ramping up. We have a VPK class again in for the second year as our partnership with Manatee County School District. And then very excitedly, I can say that we are going to break ground in November on our new North End Education Complex, the first phase of our expansion. This will include the Mosaic Backyard Universe, which is the inquiry-based learning center that we're building, and 6 additional classrooms to the museum. So it really increases our capacity to work. And finally, I'd like to talk about my role on the Florida Association of Museums Board of Directors, as I'm the vice president. We advocate for funding for the Division of Cultural Affairs. As a CEO of a museum, I can tell you that's very important funding for us, and I urge you to please look at it. We were cut in half this year. It affected every museum that I know of, and please look at that. That's vital. Supports lights, staffing, water, things that are critical to keep us going. So please look at that this year. And again, we're committed to bringing private dollars to the public education arena, and we will continue that process. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Ms. Romaniecki, get ready. Ms. Johnson, you're on deck, and then Mr. Peter Straw with Sarasota Manatee Manufacturers, you're in the hole. Ms. Romaniecki, seeing that the clock is ready, we're ready for you. 3
Great.
minutes, you're recognized. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the delegation, for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of Marie Selby Botanical Gardens. I'm Jennifer Romanecki, President and CEO, and along with our Board of Trustees, thousands of visitors, volunteers, friends of Selby Gardens, as well as the scientific community, I respectfully ask for your support of our funding requests during this legislative session. By way of background, Selby Gardens is a leading botanical garden in the United States, and we receive more than 200,000 visitors annually, and our economic impact is about $12 million annually as well. We are the only garden in the world focusing on the study of epiphytes, which are air plants such as orchids and bromeliads. So yes, we're the only one in the world right here in Sarasota. Plants are essential to all life on Earth, and it's our mission to really, sustain that work. And really, what we've experienced since 2015 is a tremendous amount of growth. So our number of visitors has increased by 36%. The number of our member households has increased by 29% to more than 12,000 households, making us the largest member-based attraction in Sarasota now. And our annual revenues have increased by 26%. The recent damage that our greenhouse has experienced from Hurricane Irma, though, although fortunately manageable this time, underlined the need for us to act now to protect our world-renowned collections and really secure them for the future. Luckily, we've been master planning, and that's been underway for a while, and that's really what I'm here to share with you today. We have a new proposed master site plan that would actually triple our peak visitor capacity. We would nearly double our green space within our existing footprint. It includes water access for visitors, eco-tours, and research, and increases our parking capacity by 150%. It also includes the ability for us to be a demonstration site for the very latest in green building technology, including a large solar plant, rainwater collection and reuse, water purification, green walls and roofs, and rooftop urban food gardening. These striking improvements move our exceptional scientific collection out of the flood zones and into secure structures using the latest technology while also becoming an international model. We have 2 large gifts in place already that were committed before our master plan was finalized, and we estimate that the economic impact of Phase 1 alone will be $41 million, as well as more than 1,500 full-time jobs. The Gardens, through its fundraising, will match our request with an allocation by 26-1. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Do you have any questions?
I think we're good for now. We actually do have questions, and we do want you to visit us because there's so much more to talk about. I did
Terrific.
have the opportunity to visit you all, and it was a great experience.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for presenting. Ms. Johnson with the Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast is up next, followed by Mr. Straw, and then Jan Tyler, you're in the hole. Ms. Johnson, 3 minutes, welcome, and you are recognized.
Good morning. I do have the honor of being the president of Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast, as well as speaking in front of you today, and thank you again for your time this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak specifically on the importance of saving our special places here in Florida, especially in this area, plants and animals, as well as special places for people. We ask that you fulfill the dream and the will of the voters and ensure that Florida Forever funds be used to acquire land and conservation easements. Since 1967, citizens have taxed themselves to conserve portions of our beautiful state. This heritage of saving land created our headquarters, Bay Preserve at Osprey, as well as many parks and preserves and protected ranches and farms. A sample of these projects are listed in your handout. In addition to public recreation, conserved lands ensure our drinking water is clean and abundant. Conserving land also protects our waters so that they are fishable and swimmable. Our tourist economy depends upon it. Conserving land does not burden taxpayers, quite the opposite. It increases tax revenue by increasing property values. reducing infrastructure costs, and driving tourists to our state to view our abundant and unique wildlife. The Charlotte Harbor Estuary and Mayaca Ranch lands are the last two remaining projects left on the Florida Forever acquisition list located in Sarasota County. Properties like Orange Hammock Ranch and Murphy's Marsh, if conserved, will provide significant ecological benefits to our drinking water supply and enormous recreational opportunities and benefits to citizens and tourists alike. Furthermore, using Florida Forever funds does not necessarily increase state maintenance costs. Our headquarters, for example, was purchased with Florida Forever dollars under the Florida Communities Trust program. We pay for the upkeep and maintenance of Bay Preserve. Our donors pay for it, not taxpayers. Likewise, when purchasing conservation easements, the landowner is required to maintain the property. Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast and thousands of our supporters implore you to stop spending Florida Forever dollars on expenses previously paid for out of the general fund, and continue the noble work of conserving the special places here in Florida that drive our economy. Protect our drinking water and ensure our farms continue to produce food that we consume. Please support appropriating 40% of Florida Forever Land Acquisition Trust Fund dollars to actually saving land. Our way of life depends upon it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Next up will be Sarasota Manatee Manufacturers, followed by Jan Tyler with the American Civil Rights Union. And here's a name that I can definitely pronounce, Estefania Nunez Brady. Yes, I got one. For Step Up for Students. You're in the hole. Mr. Straw, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the entire delegation for listening to their constituents and giving us this opportunity to present our platforms. In your booklets, you have one of our legislative issues because of the time constraints. We are working with other nonprofit manufacturers associations around the state of Florida to put together a comprehensive legislative agenda. We'll be presenting that to you as soon as we have it cohesively put together. The issue we'd like to talk about today is not to ask you for funding. We just want to keep a little of our own money. So to do that, we'd like to address the ad valorem tax situation. Tangible property tax on manufacturing equipment is a punitive measure. We're the only state that charges it. It's a disincentive for investment in manufacturing. Capital-intense investment in manufacturing is necessary to be successful. That manufacturing equipment is operated by people that are paid well above average wage, so we create careers by investing in technology. Counties have the ability, and Sarasota County in 2010 actually exercised that ability under referendum to waive portions of the ad valorem tax. We put together a coalition and worked very hard to make that a referendum item, and 67% of the voters passed it. However, it has to be renewed every 12 years. And why would we put $400,000 into another referendum item if we could just extend that? In a perfect world, we'd like to not see it at all. So we have a couple of different solution scenarios we'd like to present to you, and I'd be happy to discuss with each of you which you think are the most feasible at a future date. Number one, we just do away with tangible property tax on manufacturing infrastructure. That would take a constitutional referendum, which we probably don't have the horsepower for. Number two, the individual counties that are empowered to do that, like Sarasota, should be encouraged to do that, and it should be a permanent ad valorem tax exemption, not one that has to be renewed every 12 years. Number three, if we could just get the tax assessors to give up the Iowa curve statistical formula they use, which never allows the assets to be fully depreciated, and adopt straight line depreciation schedules like the IRS uses, we could probably be more successful. Then we'd be able to enroll high-tech businesses to come here, put a footprint down, employ people that pay taxes, and keep our intelligent, well-educated youth in our community rather than shipping them out to look for better jobs. So again, I'll just thank you all. I feel like Michael Jordan looking at the buzzer here.
Yes.
So the shot's
so
up.
do I.
Thank you.
Thank you. You made it before the buzzer, and I appreciate it. And please do come back with your more detailed recommendations. Ms. Jan Tyler, Legislative Director of Florida's American Civil Rights Union, is next. Step up for students. You're in the hole. Estefania Nunez. And then the American Heart Association, Mark Landreth, if you would be ready in the hole. Ms. Tyler, you're recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity. We appreciate the time to introduce you to ACRU and our priority, which is, in Florida, Clean Voter List. I am Jan Tyler, American Civil Rights Union, Florida Legislative Director. ACRU's Voting Integrity Institute fights for voting integrity in the courts, state legislatures, and the media. ACRU held Broward County accountable in our first federal court case for having 107% of the census population on their voter list. Clean voter lists are a bipartisan concern. 2 historic presidential commissions have endorsed clean voter list. For that reason, I hope the entire Sarasota delegation will support Representative Spano's bill, which enables data sharing or comparing voter lists, both intra and interstate. Already more than 30 states have enacted such kinds of legislation. The most recent Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity heard testimony last week on Florida. Experts discovered more than 2,200 duplicate voters in Florida. Shockingly, even a few were married couples who voted in 2 states within a week of each other. Online voter registration will be the law in a few weeks. Although some protections are incorporated into the law, these security measures only apply to online registrations. All registrations should be compared to DMV data to ensure both voter eligibility and accuracy. Jury duty lists can provide useful jury duty lists can provide useful data for local officials, including identifying undocumented persons who may inadvertently register to vote. ACRU is inviting legislators to initiate jury duty data sharing legislation this session. ACRU's Clean Voter List work will come under increasing challenge from well-funded groups who oppose any verification of individual voters. ACRU's funding comes from small donors. We have no secret funders or agendas. Yet, ACRU believes our work is nonpartisan, bipartisan, neither red nor blue, and essential for the stability and integrity of our election process. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Tyler, and what great timing. I appreciate you presenting to us today, and please let us know more as we move on. Ms. Nunez-Brady, you're up next. Mr. Landreth with the American Heart Association, you're on deck, and the Alzheimer's Association, represented by Serena Duncan, is in the hole. Ms. Nunez-Brady, welcome. You are recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So my name is Estefania Nunez from Step Up for Students. And for those of you who don't know, we provide scholarships for low-income students and those students with special needs. It's the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship and the Gardner Scholarship. So we just wanted to thank you guys for your continued support with our scholarship for the last 16 years, and we hope to continue working together. We actually have 102,000 students on the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship this year, and about 700 of those students are right here in Sarasota County. We also have, for the Gardner Scholarship, about 8,000 students, and about 100 of those are right here. So we just want to thank you so much for supporting us, and we hope to continue to work together. So
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, and thank you for what you do for our young scholars who are looking forward to moving forward with their education. Next is Mr. Mark Landreth with the American Heart Association. The Alzheimer's Association was on deck with Ms. Duncan. And finally, Protect Our Public Schools, Diana Desenberg, you're in the hole. Mr. Landreth, you are recognized, sir, for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you about the American Heart Association's legislative and regulatory agenda over the next year. The three things you can do, or the easiest things we can do to prevent heart disease are eat healthy, live actively, and not smoke. And if you kind of look at our legislative and regulatory agenda through that prism, it becomes a little more clear what we're trying to do. We've got two issues we're working on the regulatory agenda through the rulemaking process. One is with DMS, we're going to try and get them to have more healthy options in vending machines in state buildings. There's a demand for it, and people are just clamoring for that. Additionally, we're working with the Department of Health to ensure that all emergency dispatchers are trained in hands-only CPR so that they can walk a caller through that when somebody calls 911. Three legislative priorities we've got for this coming up year, not in any particular order. One, we want to look at raising the minimum legal sale of tobacco products to 21 years of age. A second is a STEMI heart attack registry. And STEMI is an ST elevated myocardial infarction, AKA the widowmaker heart attack. What we're looking to do is begin collecting data from the time a call comes into 911 to the time the person walks out of the hospital at the end of their treatment regimen, so that we can create best practices that can in turn go back to the beginning of the process, and hopefully instead of approximately 48% of those people dying, we can lower that number. The third thing is definitely a little less morbid. I call it transportation appropriations. All of y'all as members come to the legislature and request money for local projects on bike paths, sidewalks, trails, better roads, things of that nature. We have programs that we work across the country called Complete Streets and Safe Routes to Schools, which enhance those type of transportation modes. So if you've got any of those that are in your personal agendas, we'd love to work with you on it. We'll be happy to come, wave and support, work the bill for you if you need that. And I'm going to yield back 35 seconds, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate it. We're actually calculating our landing here. Okay, next up, and thank you very much for all the work that you're doing. Next up is Ms. Duncan with the Alzheimer's Association, followed by Diana Desenberg with Protect Our Public Schools, and finally Ms. Claire Snyder-Hall, Progressive Sarasota. I do not see the Alzheimer's Association, so we will move on to Diana Desenberg, Protect Our Public Schools, and then Snyder-Hall, please, you're on deck, and then Mr. Steve Vernon, who I see here with Florida Citizens Alliance in the hole. Ms. Desenberg, you are recognized for 3 minutes. Thank you for coming. Welcome.
Thank you for entertaining our comments. I am Diane Desenberg, and I am speaking on behalf of POPS, which is Protect Our Public Schools, and it's a new group that's just formed in Sarasota and Manatee counties. Our main concern is that the funding of private and nonprofit schools with taxpayer funds. We are especially disappointed by the recently passed legislation HB 7069. And we talked about it a little bit, and basically our request is that you all actively work to rescind HB 7069. It impacts Sarasota. Our local Sarasota County School Board member, Shirley Brown, wrote that HB 7069 may require as much as $1,380 per student be transferred from Sarasota's locally raised capital funds to charter schools annually. So that comes out to millions of local dollars, which were traditionally used for district growth and maintenance, will now go to charter schools, and that's regardless of their need. So although the school board had been funding the charter schools, now it's just, it won't have to do with the priority and need of the local school district. So this is the type of thing that will encourage corporate charter school management companies to come into a location and set up shop regardless of need, but basically looking at the profitability of such a move. In fact, charter schools in Florida top the nation in closures. So they come into an area, they make whatever profit they can, and then they move out. Between 2000 and 2015, charter schools, that closed, so that are no longer functioning, received $70 million of these types of capital funds for infrastructure, for buildings, for rent, for buses. And almost none of that was recoverable by local taxpayers or by local school boards. And then there's a Schools of Hope provision as part of HB 7069, and that is looking to steer about $140 million toward charter schools that will move into low-performing school areas and try and turn around those schools. The irony of that provision is that charter schools themselves can be low-performing, and in the year 2016, 71 charter schools in Florida received a grade of D or below. So, not surprisingly, HB 7069 is already the target of a lawsuit, and we would request that you all work to rescind it, don't fund it anymore, and certainly don't spend taxpayer money to defend it. Thank you for letting us make comments.
Thank you, Ms. Desenberg. Next will be Ms. Snyder Hall with Progressive Sarasota, followed by Mr. Steve Vernon and National Nurses United. Mr. Brian Walsh, if you're around, you're in the hole. Ms. Snyder Hall, you are recognized for 3 minutes, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Claire Snyder Hall, and I'm a member of Progressive Sarasota, an all-volunteer organization committed to working locally to bring about a more just and sustainable community and world. We are members of the National Healthcare Now Coalition, and I'm here today to speak in support of the congressional Medicare for All bills that have been introduced in both the House and the Senate. An expanded and improved Medicare for All bill, if signed into law, would save Sarasota an incredible amount of money. And so what I'm asking is that you all issue a proclamation requesting that Representative Vern Buchanan, Senator Bill Nelson, and Senator Marco Rubio support Medicare for All. In brief, the Medicare for All Act would provide all residents of the United States with all medically necessary health care, including primary care and prevention, dietary and nutritional therapies, prescription drugs, emergency care, long-term care, mental health services, dental services, hearing, and vision, so the whole of health care. This single-payer system is funded with money already allocated for government health care programs, as well as taxes on the top 5% of our country's earners, on unearned income, on stock and bond transactions, and with a progressive tax on payroll of approximately 4.5% on average. Medicare for All builds on the country's very successful publicly funded health care program, but it extends coverage and eliminates patient copays. It would clearly benefit the American people, but what is really astounding is how much money it would save municipal and county governments each year, because they would pay only a 4.5% payroll tax instead of the astronomical amount they now pay to for-profit private insurance companies to insure their employees. For example, the city of Sarasota currently pays over $5 million a year for private health insurance, but under Medicare for All, it would pay only a bit over $1,800,000, which would save taxpayers over $3 million. Similarly, Sarasota County School District currently pays over $35 million a year for private health insurance for employees, but under Medicare for All, it would only pay approximately $11 million, which would save taxpayers $24 million. Huge amounts of money, and the detailed computations are in your packet. And anyway, this is why I'm asking today on behalf of Progressive Sarasota and the entire Healthcare Now network to issue a proclamation asking for our congressional delegation to support Medicare for All. Thank you very much.
Very well done, and thank you for being here, and we will certainly take that under advisement. Next, under Florida Citizens Alliance, Mr. and Mrs. Steve Vernon are going to be presenting, followed by the National Nurses United, represented by Brian Walsh, who I do not see in the on deck, but we'll give him a chance. And finally, Victor Yates with Immigrant Families. Well, it's Mrs. Vernon that I see on the podium. You are recognized for 3 minutes, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you. Alicia here, Mrs. Steve Vernon. Representing Florida Citizens Alliance, we are a coalition of about 80 grassroots organizations with about 20,000 grassroots activists involved. We really appreciate the 7069. We supported it. And also thank you for passing CS 989. That gave parents more control in influencing curriculum. However, we've got 3 things we'd like to encourage you all to do because we're about better education for Florida. In case you haven't, let me remind you, last year we pointed out that there are only 3 states with worse education than us. One thing we want to do is give more influence to parents in influencing curriculum from the state level. Can I draw your attention to 11 pages in your 3-ring binder? These 11 pages document what our organization has dug up. These are basically violations to the statutes that you all work really hard to pass. In other words, your quality control stinks. Here's the deal. You guys have a socialist paradigm. In socialism, you have a few overworked, underpaid bureaucrats that are well-intended trying to quality control. In a free enterprise, every single consumer is a quality control agent because he who gets the most repeat business and referrals wins. But I digress. The point being that we need more parent involvement. You need more influence in selecting your curriculum. There's pornography in our curriculum, okay? They're teaching our children to be atheists. They're going out of the way teaching our kids the principles of victimology. I had a cleaning lady with an IQ about 70. She was perfectly able to be individually responsible and self-reliant. This notion of victimology is just right. She was even black, heaven forbid. A self-reliant, anyway, I digress. The second thing we would like to ask you to do is increase the standards. Hello, Massachusetts has the #1 state. Their standards are higher than ours. There's a reason why we only have 3 states with worse education than us. Please increase the standards. And all of this is outlined on the first page that we gave you. The page says Florida Citizens Alliance 2018 Legislative Agenda. And then the third thing we'd really like to encourage is best practices, financial and management systems accountability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perfect timing. Brian Walsh. Do I see Brian Walsh? I do not. Victor Yates. I do not see Victor Yates. Okay, so we are concluding our planned requested speakers. There are 5 speakers that wish to address us, and they presented forms right now during the meeting. I'm going to give each one of you 1 minute, so be prepared to be concise and organized with your thoughts. First one will be Mark Alderson. I'm going to give you Mr. Lefebvre will be next, followed by Josie Rocco, and then the last 2 will be Melanie Lipton and Mr. or Miss Glidewell will be the last speaker. And so seeing Mr. Alderson already ready to go, you will be recognized for 1 minute. We'll go with a 3-minute clock, but when you see it hit 2, that'll be the time. Sir, welcome. You are recognized.
Thank you for having me today. The events of the last 2 weeks with the 2 hurricanes propelled me to be here today. I'm one of 28 executive directors of national estuary programs across the country. We've been very successful at restoring and improving our bays and estuaries across the country. With the storms of Harvey, Irma, now Maria pounding the islands of Puerto Rico, the economics and importance of our areas, our coastal estuaries, is coming to the forefront. This past week, Senator Latvala has indicated he's going to invite the 4 National Estuary Program directors from Florida up to meet with the delegation to talk about what's going on with all of these major hurricanes, what's going on with the environment overall in Florida. There's legacy money out there, and we could potentially redirect some of those funds to look at the our coastal areas throughout the state.
Thank you very much, and I encourage you to reach out to us afterwards as well. Mr. Lefebvre, followed by Josie Rocco, followed by Melanie Lipton. Mr. Lefebvre, we got the clock working for 1 minute. You recognize, sir, for 1 minute.
Thank you. My name's Bud Lefebvre. I have a 501c3 called Village of Hope. After a year and a half worth of research, I realized that there are a number of people out there who not only need a place that can afford to live in a nice, pleasant location, safe and secure. So we are developing mini homes in the 300 to 500 square foot, which is going to be low rent so that these folks can afford to live in a safe, secure place. We're also going to develop a community center because we feel greatly that getting them into a nice place is half the problem. The rest comes with helping them with credit, their peace of mind, their status, security, insurance. We're going to have a daycare center, et cetera. And all of this is going to come, and it's set up to where once we get it built with the 40 to 50 homes, we'll be self-sufficient with the rent that comes from it so that we can continue to open up others in other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your timeliness on your presentation. Ms. Josie Rocco is up next, followed by Melanie Lipton and Ms. Megs Glidewell. Ms. Rocco, our clock is ready. You are recognized for 1 minute and welcome.
Thank you. I am with the Prodigy Cultural Arts Program. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. Launched in 2000 by the University Area CDC in Tampa, the Prodigy Cultural Arts Program is a research-based prevention program for students ages 5 to 17. Currently, Prodigy is funded by the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. Our goals are to improve and strengthen attitudes and behaviors that affect delinquency and academic performance, communication and cooperation skills, academic achievement to avoid school dropout, and employability skills and career options, family and community support to aid in student success. I'm here today to ask you to give kids a Prodigy high five. 5 components of Prodigy. Do I have the high five?
No,
Oh,
I was
okay.
giving the high five, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I wasn't
high five.
giving you the 5, I was giving you.
Thank you. Number 1, over 2,000 students throughout West Central Florida participated in Prodigy last year. They received 10,700 hours of life skill instructions. 98% of them did not get in trouble with the law while they were enrolled in Prodigy. 100% of students enrolled received academic enrichment, and when kids are enrolled in Prodigy, it saves the juvenile justice system $106 million when we insist in prevention programs like Prodigy. Prodigy has impacted kids right here locally.
We're going to have to move on. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's only a minute. But I gave you a few extra seconds because I threw you off with a high five. So,
Okay.
but thank you very much, and please reach out to us outside of the meeting so that we can continue our conversation.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. Ms. Lipton, for 1 minute, and I'll try not to distract you by giving you a high five
no,
while
high
you speak.
fives, okay.
Ms. Lipton, you are recognized for 1 minute.
All right, here, I'm just here as a citizen. I was dismayed to hear that the legislature only put $0 into the Florida Forever Land Conservation Program. I was dismayed and disappointed in that. I think that taxpayer dollars should go to help build community parks. Outdoor play is important in child development, develops muscle strength and coordination. It's good in gaining self-confidence. I've watched it in my daughters. It's good in increasing flexibility and fine gross motor skills. And it's important in cognitive and social development. I think taxpayer dollars should go to support development of local parks and communities, no matter what your economic background is and where you live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for presenting. Ms. Glidewell, you are bringing up the rear with 1 minute. Our clock is ready, and you are recognized. Welcome.
Thank you. Megs Marie Glidewell, citizen. I've come here today to ask you, the members of the Florida legislature, to do 2 things. 1, to support Planned Parenthood, and 2, to support sex ed through all of the state-supported youth institutions. I'm chock full of, I lost my 2 minutes of statistics, so I'm going to give you 1 statistic that I think is most worth considering when you consider support to Planned Parenthood. On average, in Florida, it costs $100 to $300 for an appointment with an OBGYN. Go see a gynecologist, get birth control, check disease. $100, $300 for a young person. Usually working on the bottom of the salary scale, that's 1 to 2 weeks' salary. How would you like to make a doctor's appointment and you know it's going to cost you 2 weeks' salary? The better families, the healthier families we have, the better the lifespan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for presenting. And that concludes our presenters. As we always do, as is our tradition, we usually leave some time allotted for some closing comments. I will start to my right with Representative Newton, and hopefully our goal is to finish it all up before 12:15. Mr. Newton, Representative Newton, sir, closing comments.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank everybody that came out to participate in the beginning of the sausage-making process. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through these 5 committee weeks we have left and on to session and get it done in 60 days. But with your input early on, we can hopefully bring back some meaningful legislation and also appropriations that reflect what you're asking for today in this of this delegation. I also want to thank Representative Boyd. Sir, it's been a pleasure working with you for 2 short years. Everything I heard about you precedes itself. I know you're not going to go away. You'll definitely be around, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Representative Newton. Senator Stubbe, you're recognized, sir.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and if you didn't get all the things out to us that you wanted to talk to us about, make sure to set up appointments with us and follow up on whatever issues it is that you have. And I also want to congratulate Representative Boyd on his almost 8 years of service to Sarasota and Manatee County. We had the honor of coming into the House at the same time together, so it's been a privilege working with you.
Thank you, Senator Stubbe. Representative Gruters, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the groups for coming out today. I will tell you that I think we have a strong community, as evident shows from the previous storm, where everybody came together, especially the county leaders, Sheriff Tom Knight, the county commissioners, Paul Kirigillo, really stepping up and playing a major role with FP&L, and all the community organizations as they came together to address all the issues that were facing our community. They're all to be thanked, as well as the governor. I will tell you, I think we have a very strong delegation this year. I think we'll do a lot for everyone, and I will tell you, I think I speak for all of us when I say that we will do everything we possibly can to make sure that our area remains the best possible place to live and work. Thank you.
And I will go a little bit out of order here in speaking before Representative Boyd, because I want you to have the last word, sir. I just want to, number one, thank all the members for helping to keep this meeting going in a timely fashion. I want to thank everyone who participated, not only for speaking to us and showing your care for our community and the issues that are before us, but also for maintaining your cognizance of the timing. I appreciate that. Regarding River Road, which is often mentioned, I just have to say that even though the allocation of funds was vetoed, I think in the end we're going to see that it actually spurred up a lot of progress in the administrative measures that will finally bring this project to fruition. I'm very confident, and I got to thank everybody here in this delegation, but specifically on the Senate side of the House. Senator Stubbe, you have been marvelous in supporting that cause. And finally, Representative Boyd, I'm not sure I'm even going to be able to get through those hallways and offices without you there, sir. I'm very happy that we will have one more session to play ball with you, but you will be extremely missed in Tallahassee, and I know that you will not be extremely missed here because we will see you everywhere. Yes, sir. So with that said, Representative Boyd, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for those very kind remarks. And although it may not seem that way, I did not announce at the first of this meeting this was my last to receive all these kind comments and from some in the audience and then certainly from my colleagues. I only said it because I didn't know if we'd have time at the end of the meeting to speak, and I wanted to thank the community for letting me serve them in that capacity. But I have no doubt our delegation will be well served by you folks and those that will come on behind me, and you guys will do a great job of carrying on what this community has always expected, and that's great leadership from their representatives. So I'll be on the sidelines cheering you on and helping you any way I possibly can. Just real quickly, I just kind of in wrap up, You know, we heard a lot of things today about budget requests and a lot of things about things that were cut last year and the process. The process was a little bit different last year and a little arduous, and that's in light of the fact that where we currently are today. The budget conference just met at the end of last week, and this year we'll have a $53 million surplus, not billion, 53 million on an $83 billion budget. That's a very, very low number. And also the projection for the next year and the following year in the $1.5 billion range per year. So the House, and followed by the Senate, I think as well, took some measures that to try to protect taxpayers' money in light of what we are facing. So we're not crazy about cutting monies and cutting expense or funds to programs either, but we have to be prudent managers of your money, and that's kind of what we're facing. And I'll leave it with this. This opioid crisis that we've faced in our communities, and many of you spoke about it today, is, in my opinion, since I've been in the legislature, probably the biggest issue we've faced. You know, we face a lot of things, but this is killing our communities, it's killing our families, it's killing our friends, it's killing our neighbors. Senator Stubbe and I passed I think, a very strong penalty bill for the traffickers and the dealers, which I believe are the worst among us this past year. I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to do that. There's more work coming, but I would solicit our delegation support, as I know we have, because you all have worked on a lot of issues as well attendant to that, and then what we'll do this next year to try to continue to fight the battle. And some of that will be hopefully funding for some of the programs that are doing so good for these addicts. These addicts and users don't need to go to jail. They need to be helped and rehabilitated and hopefully put back into society as productive citizens. So I'm going to continue that fight this year. It's been a problem that's just touched my heart in many ways, and something we need to continue to really, really wrap our arms around and solve. And then finally, we are here for another year. My team, Albie Kaminsky and Michelle McCloskey, are here. Anything we can do to help you, as the others have said in their comments today, please reach out to us. This is even though it's our last year, we're going to finish strong and work hard to continue to serve our community well. So thanks for this opportunity. Thanks for giving me a couple extra minutes, Chairman. And with that, I close.
Thank you, Chairman Boyd. And without objection, Representative Gruters moves we adjourn. Show the meeting adjourned.